Hello, Doom Rave, Doom family in general. Welcome to round 2 of the community forum and interview. Thank you all for hanging out. Thank you again, Rebel Duck, for allowing us to use the Doom Rave channel to perform this. It's been a really good time. We had a great time earlier with Bloodshot and Umbra and Chaco, who I see here currently in the chat. Hello, Tony. Hello, Monst. On that note, I am the host for the evening, Arrhythmia FPS. And our first guest of the day is our favorite otter, Ferb246. Oops, I totally know how to use binds. Ferb, hello.
Hey, what is up? How's it going?
Doing good, man. Why don't we start with having you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do with this game?
Yeah. So my name is Ferb. I like otters. Uh, I started playing Doom really with 2016, and that's kind of what got me into playing Doom Eternal. Is I was speedrunning, quote unquote speedrunning, 100% in 2016. So I wanted to do the same in Eternal. And yeah, I just kind of got moved over to this game, and I've been doing it since launch. And I like this game a lot. It's definitely one of my favorite games. It's very different from Doom 2016, though.
Yeah, so
But what
initially
I do now,
the thing that drew you to the game is just like prior experience with doing essentially speedrunning with the prior iteration of the game, 2016's Doom.
yeah, I mean, they could have made this game whatever, and I still would have bought it.
Fair, relatable. It's
So,
the first game I ever pre-ordered for similar reasons. I pretty involved in 2016 and saw that the sequel was coming out and kind of jumped on that train. So that's pretty relatable.
yeah.
Was there any like
overall
defining
happy
moment
with it.
that kind of like made you know that you were going to enjoy this? And did you happen to pre-order it, or did you just wait until it launched to get it?
I pre-ordered it the day before launch. Because yeah, I don't usually pre-order stuff like ahead of time because I don't like not knowing if it's gonna come out. Like it was delayed and everything. That would have annoyed me. So I usually, like, when there's pre-order bonuses, I'll pre-order a game like the day before it comes out. But if there's not pre-order bonuses, I won't do that just because there's not really any point, especially with digital copies because there's no scarcity. Uh,
Fair.
but yeah, I pre-ordered it the day before.
So were there any moments in like the pre-release gameplay trailers or anything that like made you jump on it, or was it just because of 2016 and the reputation that game kind of geared you to expect Eternal to be in that same level?
It was definitely mostly because of 2016. There were a couple like reveals that got me more excited for the game. Specifically, the reveal of the dash mechanic and the meat hook. Like those two were what made me think like, okay, yes, this is going to be a game that I enjoy. But overall, like I wasn't really hyped for the game, like at least compared to everyone else in the 2016 community. I was kind of just like, yeah, I'm going to play it and it's going to be fun, but I'm not really like expecting it to be the greatest game ever made. Uh, so my expectations weren't like super high from the start. I was expecting it to be a fun game, but not like the best game, which is kind of weird. But yeah, I just like looking at the gameplay footage didn't really get me as hyped as it was for like everyone else in the community.
Do you think after you ended up playing it for the first couple hours that it ended up surpassing those expectations, even though you'd kind of set the bar low? Or
Well, I think because I didn't really have a bar to begin with. It met. Well, I don't want to say it met my expectations because I really didn't have any. Like going into it, I was pretty much just expecting to play a game. I don't know.
all right, fair. So then along those same lines, then what keeps you coming back to it then? What's the main drive for putting in what is essentially hundreds of hours into the game?
It's definitely the minute to minute gameplay. Just like the gameplay loop, I do really enjoy the gameplay loop. Same with 2016. I've always liked the classic shooters where you have your full arsenal. You can swap to whatever weapon on the fly. I like that there's different enemies are better handled with different weapons, so you have a reason to use your full arsenal. It keeps you more engaged than most other first-person shooters. So I really like the actual gameplay of the game. A lot of what keeps me coming back, though, in all honesty, is just because I do stream it 3 times a week. So like there are some times where I'm just like, I really don't want to play Doom right now, but I'll play it anyway. So that's why I haven't like taken a break. I probably would have taken a few breaks, but just playing it for an audience definitely keeps you engaged. But I do still enjoy the game overall. Like I still find myself having a lot of fun with it when I'm not super salty at it.
Relatable, and it kind of does help to have at least that group of people in a chat window to bounce that frustration off of, and kind of get some of that like reciprocated back, where it's, you know, people in that audience are like, yeah, I've had that same thing happen, it's BS.
Right.
So what personal goals do you have around the game? Because I guess we should back up a little bit here. You are also a speedrunner. You're involved in the speedrunning community. What is your main category currently, and what have you done beforehand?
So it's changed a lot. So with starting out with 2016, the category I ran in 2016 was 100% Ultra Nightmare, and it was very straightforward. There was one 100%, and everyone ran that 100% Ultra Nightmare. The rules were simple. The gameplay facilitated the rules of the speedrun, and it just kind of made sense to me anyway. Going into Eternal, none of the rules made sense to me as far as like the official speedruns go. Like I really didn't like the idea of using mastery tokens, and that was just a personal thing. I felt like it kind of took away from the 100% routing aspect of it, which is what I enjoyed. So from the get-go, I wanted to do a run that was no mastery tokens, but that was kind of like not an official category. So the category I wanted to run wasn't an official category, but I still wanted to run it anyway. So I've pretty much always just been doing my own kind of speed runs. Just recently, I started trying to actually compete with like official no mastery tokens runs, since they actually became a thing now. But for the most part, pretty much since launch, I've just been making up my own speed runs and competing them against myself, which include like taking pictures of Daisy and mecha zombies and revealing positions,
specific and anatomical portions of mecha zombies.
Yeah, you know, it's part of the rules. I can't argue with them.
You do have one of the most interesting custom rule sets for this game's speedrun as a whole, and they are very entertaining to watch.
That's honestly what I mean. It didn't start out me liking it that way. Like I kind of fell into doing my own speedruns as like a form of necessity, just because I really didn't like the run that was decided upon. But I kind of got to a point where I actually really do like making my own runs and just running whatever the hell I want, because you can
you gotta have fun while you're doing it.
Yeah, and you can kind of make the rules appeal to you in a way. Like you've always got world record for one. So that's good. But yeah, it makes it more personal for me, and I've started to actually really like that. So I do mostly custom speedruns now. So all the times I compete against are just my own.
Awesome. So that brings us back up to the place that I was going with that. What personal goals do you have with the game right now? Like what is the thing that you're attempting to accomplish currently? And then beyond that, do you have any like long-term goals with the game?
So currently I am trying to get an official, like no mods, no anything custom, just regular no mastery tokens Ultra Nightmare run on current patch, because I can't be bothered to down patch. And I don't really care about where it places. I just want to have it on the leaderboard. Just have a run on there, and then I'll probably go back to doing custom runs. But I just want to, I don't know, I feel compelled to actually do like a legitimate run, just so I can share those strategies with people who do those runs. So like when they ask, I'm not just like, well, in my personal run, I have to go out of my way to get this picture here.
But you do know where all the daisies are, so that is,
I
I mean,
do.
that
It's
is
a
a
very
question that
important
gets
skill.
asked. So,
It's a talent.
and as far as I'm aware, your last submitted restricted Ultra Nightmare run that was officially accepted on speedrun.com was like, not much further after launch. It was like 8, 9 months ago, somewhere in there.
It was a while ago. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it wasn't really speed. Like in the first, I was just watching part of it today, actually. In the first like 4 minutes of it, I say like it's a good thing I'm not a speedrunner because that was awful. And it's true. That run was not a speed run. It was just me casually going through the game 100%. Granted, it was as quick as I could go at the time, but comparatively speaking, it wasn't a speed run.
Fair
But yeah,
enough.
it was a while ago. It was I think it was on patch 1.1, I think.
So speaking of mods, because I know you had mentioned that you've done with your custom, your own personal speedrun style, you've done
Yes.
modded gameplay. How much modded content have you tried? Like what in terms of custom master levels or like horde mode or things that affect like core gameplay loops have you done?
So this is where I differ from like everyone else in the community who streams on Twitch is I've never really been interested in the custom master levels just because I think the game as it is hard enough for me. Like I don't really need more challenge until I can beat Ultra Nightmare consistently. Like I feel like adding more challenge onto that like is not something that I need at the moment. But also I don't necessarily agree with all the design choices. Like there are some good master levels. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of really good modders in the modding community. Um, but a lot of it, like just watching other people play it, I can tell that it's not something that I would personally enjoy. So the kind of mods that I do though are mods that affect the gameplay as a whole rather than add new content, which is like the opposite of what everyone else does. They usually do new content and don't touch the gameplay. So yeah, I'm kind of weird in that sense. But I've always had the notion of I want the game. I don't want more of the game. I want the game to be better. So that's why I would really like if there were more custom like level reworks, not like master levels where it increases the difficulty, but just rebalances, retouches, remove this enemy here, move this enemy here, make this arena slightly more tailored to, whatever. Just stuff that really plays into the strengths of the game and promotes that, and just I guess
So
content that really understands the way the game plays. I
right,
feel
so
like
like
a
if
lot of the
id
content
Software
right now,
themselves were to kind of like remix these levels, but not necessarily try and crank up the difficulty on them like the
right,
master levels do.
right.
Okay.
So that's kind of a personal goal. I would like to eventually be able to do that myself. Like it's a long ways away, but it would also come with a whole bunch of other changes as well.
And speaking of mods, because I know in the previous round with Chaco and Umbra and Bloodshot and stuff, we had brought up some of the stuff that you had done early on around like the update 2 when modding kind of first started becoming a
Right.
thing for this, where you had gone out of your way and solved two of what I think were the community's largest complaints at the time, which was the Kako zooms,
Yeah.
and then the Marauder friendly fire shield stuff, which are pretty big. They're pretty big things, and did a pretty good job of showing that those things can be easily implemented into the game if id Software were to do
Yeah,
it.
and I want to say that was like 2 days after I decided I wanted to look into modding. So, and this for me, like I don't know how to code. I don't have any background in coding. I know like basic computer syntax, like if then else statements and whatnot, but I don't know C# or C+ or anything like that. So me getting into it is pretty much not something that was in my wheelhouse, but I was able to still figure out how to fix it within like 2 hours. So
Yeah, that's
I don't want to make any broad statements about how it does stuff, but I thought that was a little that to me is what made me think like definitely at least the Marauder shields I firmly believe that that's not a bug. I believe that's a design choice. I believe that they know they are 100% aware that the Marauder's shield is triggered by friendly fire, and they intentionally create arenas to do that because it's a design choice that they made.
Right. Case in point,
And
I guess, would be the Super Gorness Master level, where they stuff that Marauder inside
right,
of the fog with all the mecha zombies around them. When mecha zombies are one of the largest contributors to the friendly fire stuff.
right. And my argument is like the majority of the community believes it's a bug. And if your design feature is mistaken for a bug by 90% of the community, it's probably not the best design choice.
Fair. And it's another one of those things like we were talking about earlier too, where it flies under the radar because it's not being addressed and being confirmed one way or the other. It's just kind of like, well, I mean, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Who's to say? Is kind of the overall attitude from them.
I sort of feel like they don't want to confirm it one way or the other either, because that would kind of put the onus on them, like saying like, yes, we know about it, we did it on purpose, and then that would give people a license to say like, well, why did you do that? That's dumb. If it's still nebulous, then they can, I guess, feign ignorance to it, be like, oh, we don't know. But yeah, just especially also the way it's in the declaration files, like it's put in there to where you have the shield and then you have exceptions to the shield of what doesn't trigger the shield, and there's already like a few exceptions on there, but none of the enemy projectiles are on there as exceptions. So somebody had to go in there and look at the exceptions and think, okay, these ones need to be on here, but all these ones need to not be on here. So it's something that's very hard, I think, to overlook. So that to me makes me think that it's an intentional choice. As for the Kakozumis, I heard that Hugo had said that he wanted to leave it in the game because it's become a part of the game. I strongly disagree with that, but
yeah.
I don't know if he actually said that because I wasn't there in that stream. That's just what I heard. But yeah, I really don't personally like that mechanic at all, so I got rid of it.
And I think if that is an accurate statement, I think what they're referring to is, and this might just be another breakdown of communication between the player base and the devs, where maybe they think Kakozumis means the Kako's moving more quickly, which was the intended change.
Right.
But what we as the player base and as the community know Kakozumis to be is like straight up teleportation, where they can cover hundreds of feet in like 3 to 7 frames within a second. It happens very, very quickly. So that I think is something that where Kakos are currently is that they do kind of zip a little bit. They kind of dash short distances. But the old Kakozooms were like, you could be on the other side of the Slayer Gate, and this thing would all of a sudden be up in your grill when it spawned on the other side of an arena.
Yeah, like that mod was specifically like it was a 1.1 or 1.2. It was an issue like after they put out the next update, that mod was kind of obsolete. Like it still works, it still does what it's supposed to do, but it's not really like, you don't really notice them zooming as much. So that mod it's not really super useful anymore,
right?
Which is good. I mean, that they mostly fixed it, but not completely.
Yeah, that was something that was introduced with update 2 and lasted all the way until the launch of Ancient Gods back in October. So it would have been in the game for about 4 months, somewhere in there.
Yeah, and I mean,
without having anything hot fixing it.
Yeah, and my solution wasn't the most elegant. Like I literally just took the flight information from the Pain Elemental and copied and pasted it over the Kakos. So it wasn't the most elegant by any means, but there's a solution there.
Yeah, it worked really well though, because I did install that mod, especially during the initial launch of like Horde mode, which was like Proteus and Solart's first like big project together, where they brought out this thing that the community as a whole had kind of been asking for, where it was like an endless thing almost. You could go through a Slayer Gate and go through all these different arena challenges and stuff. And the cacos in that were absolutely nuts. I remember Byte playing through it and having like 3 or 4 caco teleports in a row.
Yeah.
And just being so upset about it.
That mod in particular, like watching people play it is what kind of made me want to do more gameplay mods, is because like I remember watching, I think it was Dude Hell Yeah, he was playing it, and he was commenting on the game, like he was saying like they Protea and Solart, they should have, you know, considered the state of the game before making some of the design choices that they made with it, like the way Caco's zoomies everywhere, and yet they put Cacos everywhere. And so it got me thinking like there should be, I think people making these kind of mods need to either take into account the flaws of the game currently, or take efforts to fix those flaws before putting out that content. And that was also one of my issues with the master level mods, is I feel like a lot of them are designing it with an ideal game in mind, even though that ideal game doesn't exist. So like a lot of the arenas are designed seemingly like there's no knockback mechanic, even though that exists. So they throw a bunch of enemies that have knockback in an arena, and like, oh well, they have knockback, yeah, it's just a thing. Like the arena would be great if they didn't have it, but they do have it, so
Right, or like being able to place, you know, not just one but multiple Marauders in with lots of fodder, which creates that difficulty in opening up on what is the intended parry mechanic with the Marauder.
Right. And actually one of the modders recently actually came to me, Krazer. He asked if he could like bundle the Better Marauders mod into one of his master level mods, and I was like, yes, absolutely, do that. Because I think like that I think is how those gameplay mods need to be used. Like they need to be, a big reason why I think a lot of people don't use them is because the base game wasn't designed for them. Like the base game was designed with Marauder friendly fire in mind. But if you make content with that fix in mind, then that puts it into people's minds that this is the correct way to play this mod. Like the correct way to play this mod is with these fixes installed. So like if you make a mod with the no knockback mod bundled, then it opens up a whole new type of encounter you can make. Because you can put like 30 what are the guys? Carcasses. You can put like 30 carcasses in an arena, and you don't have a pinball machine, you have like something else completely.
Right, like you can justify stuffing
maze.
5 to 7 blood makers in a single arena and not expect the player to get stun locked in a corner somewhere for upwards of a minute, you know?
Right. So like I understand the people who don't want to install gameplay mods, because like yeah, the base game wasn't made with these gameplay mods in mind. But I really want to see more mods, like content mods, taking advantage of the gameplay mods that exist. Because I think like when you actually play with some of these mods installed, like these mods that overhaul weapons, the mods that overhaul like enemy damage, it makes the game so much more enjoyable to play. Like when you're not getting pinballed around by carcasses, yes, it objectively makes the game easier, but it also makes the game just feel better. It doesn't feel like you're getting manhandled by these beasts of flesh. I don't know.
Right. Well, and like that's kind of one of the things with like a carcass specifically, is that like two of the most efficient ways to take them down, and it's, again, this is like subjective stuff, because there's a lot of ways you can kill a carcass. You can like precision bolt and ballista them, which oftentimes skips their shield pulling up. Like a PB rocket does work, but you'll oftentimes take the self damage from the rocket. But like a blood punch and a point blank super shotgun will basically eliminate the threat of a carcass, but you also have to take the risk of getting within melee range to blood punch a carcass,
Yeah.
Or within
Almost
SSG range that all of the pellets will hit him enough to kill him. And at that same time, especially when you're on higher frame rates, you run the risk of, like you said, being pinballed.
Yeah, and that was also my issue with the that one room in the master level, the Super Gore Nest master level, the Tyrant room. That room I feel like was designed for a different game completely. It wasn't designed for Doom Eternal as it exists right now. Like whoever designed it didn't know that carcasses did CC damage, because otherwise they wouldn't have made that room. It's absolutely ridiculous that that room was made knowing that carcasses just push you around the entire time. Like you can't do anything in that room. And that's one of the few areas that it designed that I feel like is like objectively poorly designed.
Right, because it's not like you can also just remove the carcasses from that arena either. It seems like
Right.
most of the places where they've added them recently have them respawn like they're fodder enemies, but they're technically heavies and they require 3 chainsaw pips to kill. And to use the combat chess analogy, do you play chess, Ferb?
I know the rules, but I don't play it.
Are you aware of
I
the
watched
term
the Queen's
castling?
I do know that, yes.
Okay, so in like the Holt Slayer Gate, for example, let's treat the Marauder as like the queen. It can go anywhere on the board. It's a major threat. It is also the thing that should be mostly focused on. But this queen can be castled, right? And you can eliminate the rooks. But the rooks respawn, and that queen can be recastled almost immediately.
And you can't attack the castle on a slope either, and the whole thing is sloped.
Right. So that system kind of breaks down a little bit when you start looking at how some of these demons were used in certain arenas. I can definitely agree with that, especially in that Tyrant room where there's 2 of them, and you are no longer able to remove the rook from the board because the rook just respawns, and that's not how chess works.
Right. Yeah, I think that just like in a nutshell, that kind of summarizes how I feel about the game right now, is that the developers are playing a different game than we're playing. They're designing a different game than the one that is being put out. And I don't know if they know that, but like the game that they think they're making is not the one that we're playing. You know, Hugo talks a lot about how, when you die, we want it to be something that teaches you a lesson. But it's so rarely the case that when you die, it's something that is actually your fault. It's usually something that is a quirk of the engine, like a zombie literally moonwalking across the map to headbutt you in the face. It's like, what am I supposed to learn from that? Just like don't
the lesson
exist in the same room as zombies.
Yeah, it's played the game at the intended 60 frames per second.
Yeah. And so that's why I kind of feel like they're designing a different game than we're playing, which is weird, but I don't know if they know that. I hope that they do. I hope that's what they take away from this if any of them end up watching this. They need to look at how people are playing it. Like case in point, the Unmaker. The Unmaker, you go to any channel on Twitch and see how many people are using the Unmaker. There's none. Except for people who are playing like a first blind playthrough and they're like, oh, what is this gun? Just testing it out for the first time. Anyone who's played the game more than once does not use the Unmaker because there are so many reasons not to use it. So many reasons. People had one reason to use it. One reason. And they were like, let's get rid of that reason. Let's just get rid of it and not put another reason in. And It makes you wonder, like, do they know that no one actually uses the Unmaker? Are they aware of the current state of the meta for that gun in particular? Like, they lock that gun behind the 6 hardest challenges in the base game, and it's completely useless.
Yeah, there's like you can find ways to work the Unmaker into combinations and stuff, and it's a fun gun to use. It's actually insanely fun to use. But any situation where you would be spending Argent cells, the ammo type that fuels the Unmaker, those same Argent cells are used for a BFG, which will clear a room. The Unmaker,
Yeah.
if you spend 30 cells, you can take down a super heavy, like a Tyrant and maybe a Baron with that 30 cells, but like you could also spend the 30 cells, clear everything else in the arena, and then maybe do like 2 combos on a Baron or a Tyrant, and they're deleted. So like
Honestly, I think the simple fix would be swap the BFG and the Unmaker, like how you get them. I mean, that would not fit with the game how it is right now, with you getting the BFG 10,000. But that would make, because the BFG is objectively like the superior damaging weapon. It should be the one that is locked behind the challenges and stuff. But you can't put the iconic BFG behind as a secret weapon in a Doom game.
right.
So like I understand why they don't do that, but logically speaking, that's how it should be. It should be that you get the Unmaker by default as part of the story, but if you do all these challenges, you get an even better weapon that uses that same ammo.
And like if the overdrive nerf, for example, had also come with like a damage buff for the Unmaker, where they're like, okay, we see that the only time you're using this is when the DPS is infinite, and it makes sense to use that. So what
Right.
I wish they would have done is, I get, making sure that you don't get infinite Argent cells with the Unmaker with the overdrive, but to make the Unmaker also useful in other situations to contrast that, instead of just neutering the one option and the one time it was ever used, would have been a much better solution. Even just maybe tightening up the spread of those 3 projectiles, and maybe just a tad bit more damage, a little bit more DPS, and a little bit of a tighter spread, so it became a more mid-range focused weapon.
Yeah.
Because if something's not up in your face, those 3 projectiles are not gonna hit anything, and you'll just be wasting the ammo.
And that's why I say I feel like they're playing a different game or designing a different game, because they nerfed it based on how they think the game should be, rather than how the game actually is. Like how it is no one uses it. How it should be is people use it, but they don't get infinite ammo from it. But that's just not how it is. So like they need to take a look at how the game is actually played and make changes accordingly. And I don't know that they're doing that. Maybe for like battle mode stuff, they're looking at how people are playing it. But for the single player campaign, I really don't feel like they're looking at how people are playing it, except for maybe speedrunners, because they're pretty good at patching out speedrun chapters.
All right, relatable. So have any of these other issues, like, because we know now that they're actively going to do something about no target and blood punch fails, and depending on how they handle no target and if they effectively handle what is causing blood punch failures, those 2 things, when those updates launch, should hopefully just be a thing of the past, and we can put all those sorts of memes behind us. Noodle fist will no longer happen. The no target emote can be deleted from Franker faces. It'll be a great time. Have any of these other issues made you stop playing either for like the rest of the day, or have you actually taken like, prolonged breaks from the game due to like frustration or anything?
I probably would have taken breaks, but if it weren't for modding. But just the fact that if I don't like something, I can generally fix it myself, that makes me more inclined to keep playing. Like if I had been playing the base game the whole time, I would probably have taken many more breaks than I have. And I haven't really taken any breaks, actually. I've been playing pretty much 3 times a week, every week since launch. I think I only missed like 1 because I was sick at the time or something. But yeah, just being able to make the game more like the kind of game that I personally want to play. And I totally understand if they don't want to make certain changes. Like if they want to keep the enemies all having CC knockback damage, it's perfectly fine. It's their game, they can make it how they want. But I personally hate that mechanic, so when I feel like it's getting to me, I want to just remove it from the game. So I really like having that option of being able to do that. And so that's kind of one of the big proponents of actually using gameplay mods, is it just it gives you options on how to play the game. Like you're not strictly confined to playing it the way that the developers want you to play it.
Yeah, and I find that something that is going to be at the end of this game's life cycle, when it's done being updated and it's not being worked on anymore. With the way that the modding community is now, I expect to see that pick up a lot more.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see what we can do with the game to make it more of like what you said, more of an experience that we want out of it, instead of feeling like we're obligated to play the thing that id Software has done. The beauty of software engineering is that you can re-engineer software, which is super cool.
Yeah, and I fully realize that I have a very different outlook on it than most people. Like most people look at it and they think like, oh, gameplay mods, that's cheating. Can't play the game in a different way. You can't modify these things because it makes it easier. Like objectively speaking, no knockback makes the game easier. But I've always had the idea, like if I don't like something, I'm gonna get rid. I don't care if it's cheating. If I don't like it, I don't want it. I'm gonna get rid of it. So that's been my goal since the beginning. Is just since id isn't going to make the game that I want to play. Like they've made a game that I want to play for sure, but it's not 100% the game I want to play. And playing it as much as I do, I just want to change those little bits that still bug me about the game. So those little bits that I can change, I like changing them. I like making them how I want. So little things currently I'm reworking the weapons. Not that the weapons are bad right now, but I feel like this weapon would be a little better if it fired this way, or if it had just a tiny bit more firing speed, or the microwave beam, for instance. It is so much more fun if you just tweak the lock time. If you change the lock timing, the time it takes to acquire a target, you suddenly are able to work that into a quick swap rotation. And that just opens it up so much. Like you can quick swap to the microwave beam really quick, stagger an enemy, quick swap back, and suddenly it just opens up a whole new route of gameplay that wasn't there before, just with a tiny little tweak like that. And so just being able to do stuff like that, it in my opinion adds a lot of longevity as well.
Well, and like you said with that microwave beam too, like that, even fully upgraded and fully mastered, it does still feel like it is one of the slowest to acquire weapon mods of the entire bunch. And it could be worked in as like a taser of sorts, where you can kind of just bzzzt and stun an enemy real quick without having to sacrifice a frag grenade or an ice bomb to falter them. You have, again, another option to work into that stun lock mechanic that isn't so slowed down that it feels like it's more of a risk to get that thing out, and maybe even have the microwave beam not quite fully acquire the target you're looking at.
Right. So yeah, my long-term goal right now is to make an alternate version of the game, not a better version, just a different version, a version that's more catered to how I want to play. I think is also how a lot of other Doom community players want to play. Just one that is more focused on certain core elements like movement and quick swapping and stuff like that. So that's my long-term goal right now, is to make overhaul the weapons, the enemies, and eventually the actual levels themselves. So it's a lot to do, but eventually that's the goal.
I would play the heck out of any of your level reworks. It would be hard to pitch them as a master level of sorts, but to have a remixed level, I think would be interesting. It provides that variation that I think a lot of people, after a couple hundred hours of playing this game, they want something that's familiar but fresh.
Yeah. So I don't know if you saw One of the weapons that I have finished right now, the Unmaker, like I tweaked the way the Unmaker works, and it makes it just completely different. Like you use it in so many different scenarios, it becomes a completely different weapon. Like it at that point, it's almost like playing a different game where you have an arsenal that functions similarly, but at the same time completely different. You have to relearn a lot of stuff on how you play the game, and I think that's pretty fun, pretty interesting. My Fun Maker mod. I was going to release that as a standalone, but I also kind of wanted it to like be included as like a full weapon bundle. But I might just do it as a standalone since I've had some people asking for it.
Yeah, that's also something that I've been pretty curious about since I saw you working on that. To find a way to make the Unmaker more viable without having to wait for an official patch for it.
Yeah, I have a clip of how it works. I changed a lot of it. Let me see if I can find that.
Cool. The other one that I've seen you working on in recent history too that kind of has me interested is the single fire combat shotgun grenade, the sticky grenade.
Yeah, so that's one so looking into the files, like you would think that with the combat shotgun with the sticky grenades that it works on like a loaded system. Like you load in 3 shots, you have 3 shots in the gun, you shoot 3 shots, you reload. But it actually works on a heat system like the chain gun, to where each shot uses 33.3% heat and it slowly cools itself. But that kind of adds this weird quirk where if you shoot twice and then it cools a little bit and then you shoot again, you didn't fully use all the heat. So now it starts cooling as it would when you haven't shot all the shots. So you can reload your shots one at a time. But if you shoot 3 like back to back, then it hits the max and it starts cooling all the way and you can't shoot again until it fully cools down. So it creates this weird like uncertainty with the weapon where you're not sure if you'll get your shot back after shooting 3 shots or if you'll have to wait longer to get all 3 shots back. And so I just changed it to where you get 1 shot and then it reloads, and then you get 1 shot and then it reloads. So it's very consistent in that way.
Yeah, if there were any clips, or if you're like in game and you want to demo any of this stuff too, I'd very easily be able to display that. Oh, hey, look.
So I posted the Fun Maker in the chat.
Okay, let me pull that up real quick.
Call it the Fun Maker because it's fun.
Its destructive potential is staggering.
Check it out. It's like a shotgun now. And you see the little meter going up? The heat meter shows me how many shots I have. I don't think it would get refilled with crystals, but it doesn't, you don't refill it. So I can shoot it like that, just like one at a time, or I can auto fire it. And it does have some kickback as well. But now that it's overheated, I have to wait. So I also gave it a little bit of kickback there. So like you could in theory use it as like a speed run tool. Because it will, like, you could use it to get to certain places by using the kickback, but you'd also, you'd waste your Unmaker shots doing that.
Right. How much mobility did it provide you? Because I know that's something you could probably tweak further and further in as you go, but like, how much versus like say a standard ballista boost is that? Do you think?
I think if you used all of them, you'd be able to get farther than a single ballista boost. I haven't actually tested like the distance of it. I kind of just like threw a value on there and called it good for the time being.
Okay.
So I didn't want to go through like testing all of like the different locations you could get to with it. But yeah, just giving it a heat value like that instead of like actually using ammo really changed how you use it, because you go into a level thinking you want to use it at the beginning, that way it recharges by the end so you can get more use out of it. So suddenly unmaker routing becomes a thing, like where you use your unmaker shots, because you get a guaranteed unmaker shots at the start of every level because the gun is off cooldown, but you don't get guaranteed unmaker shots like throughout the whole level because it takes a really long time to cool down, unless you want to just wait. But in that case, like if you're going through the level very slowly, you probably need that crutch, that better weapon that you can rely on. If you're breezing through the game going as fast as you can, you don't need that weapon, that power weapon, as much as someone else who isn't does.
Right.
So yeah, and yeah, the Umbra in chat says the Rafflecopter full auto.
Oh
That
god,
was
that
a
thing
really
was
fun mod.
that thing was amazing.
Well, let me find that clip, because that one, I think I have that one on here too.
Yeah, I remember watching you sort of work on that on your stream one night, and just seeing you be able to send yourself into the skybox with an insane amount of shotgun ammo drained. That's probably one of the greatest uses I've seen for full auto ever, is to just essentially become an A10 Warthog.
It was infinite ammo for sure, and this is definitely not something that would actually be like a legitimate balanced mod, more of something just for fun, but it was very fun to use. Like, you give it just enough kick to where it gives you a little bit of kickback. Yeah.
Oh my god, this thing is amazing, dude. That's so good.
So much fun. I need to put that back. And I did another one. I don't think I have any clips of it though, for the heavy cannon, where it gave positive kickback, and like a lot of it when you shot it. So it was basically like a point teleport. You shoot the gun once and you suddenly get like 500 added velocity, and you just go flying in the direction of where you shot the bullet. It was great.
Yeah, Hailstorm had something similar with the ballista, where it was like essentially a reverse ballista boost. It would just pull you towards where you were shooting, which I thought was a pretty cool thing.
It definitely breaks the game for sure. It was fun.
Speaking of breaking the game, I know you recently updated your PC, so I kind of have a baseline for what the answer for this question is going to be. But have you played this game on different platforms, like different consoles? Do you own a console? And have you played at like wildly different frame rates? And how has that impacted your gameplay?
I've never played on console. I can't play first-person shooters with a controller. Hats off to Bazooka Joey and Salem Thomas TV, those guys who can play it with a controller and beat Ultra Nightmare. I don't know how. It's ridiculous to me, but I'm just really bad with a controller. So I've only ever played it, on PC. My old PC, shout out to the R9 390. Good old graphics card got me playing. That's about all it did. It didn't do much else, but it let me play the game.
I mean, you hit over 60 FPS on a pretty regular basis, which is still saying
getting
something.
Over 60. Like I would average like high double digits. So like back then, the game still felt a little funky sometimes, but it was like not like noticeably funky. It was like, moderately funky. I'm trying to think of like a band analogy that's moderately funky, but now
my morning jacket.
Now I got the top of the line AMD card, the meme card, the 6900X, and nice. Averaging like 300 frames. It's stupid sometimes. For one, the meat hooks. Like the first time I did a meat hook on 300 frames per second, I was like, oh. That's what they're talking about.
Yeah, it feels way different, doesn't it?
And yeah, the bunny hops all worked like first try. It's crazy. And yeah, enemies moonwalking across the battlefield is also ridiculous. Yeah, it's
since upgrading to the higher frame stuff. What enemy do you think has caused you the most trouble with like the weird melee lunging and projectile speed changes?
I want to say Doom Dread Knights, but in actuality, I think just base zombies. Because there's so many places when you're speedrunning the game where you just like, oh, it's a zombie, screw it, I'm gonna run past it. But you can't. You can't run past these zombies at 300 frames per second because they will find you. It doesn't matter if you're 30 feet away; they're right behind you.
Yeah,
They're right behind you, ready to smack you. And
Did you happen to
They
see
always do.
the compilation that I had kind of been working on that I put together on the
Yeah.
earlier round?
Yeah, I watched that, and yeah, I've definitely been getting a lot of those too. Especially
Okay.
like the backwards slide. I get a lot of the backwards sliding zombies, where like you're running at them to shoot them, and they start their animation, and their animation has to stick to you. So because you're running at them, they just slide backwards to maintain that distance, and it looks so ridiculous.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because like if you start off on higher frames and then move to an even higher frame rate, you might not notice it as readily. Because I started playing at 144, and then when I found out that the meat hook moved faster at higher frames, I was like, oh well, duh. Then obviously I'm going to uncap my frame rate. And over
Yeah.
time, and this is like a couple months worth of playing, I'm like, how come I feel like how come these things are they feel like they're skating? What's going on here? And so I started, going back down to like 120 because I had upgraded my monitor to 240 hertz, and those things started happening less and less on lower frame rates, and that's when all the pieces kind of started falling into place, and you're like, oh, it's one of those games, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough to where all that research was already done when I upgraded my PC, so I knew what I was getting into. I didn't just upgrade it for Doom Eternal though, so I don't regret driving from Austin to San Antonio to get this stupid card, even though I probably should. But yeah, it didn't really increase my enjoyment of Doom Eternal. Let's just say that. Like some elements are more fun for sure. Yeet hooking is a lot more fun, but yeah, getting smacked on by zombies who just got that cha-cha slide down is not super fun.
Yeah,
when you're trying
things
to
that are supposed to be used
speedrun.
as like ammo and armor and health packs are suddenly like actual major chess pieces.
Right.
There are no longer any pawns on this chessboard. They're all knights. They're all rooks.
Yeah, that's how it feels.
So what do you hope to see from the game in the future then, as Tag Part 2 rolls out, and with Invasion still being somewhere in the horizon, we might not be able to see its shadow cast across the lands yet. But what sort of things do you hope id Software ends up doing with this game?
I just hope they fix the bugs that we all know about, like the ones that we've been talking about for ages. I really hope that they either fix them or acknowledge them. And yes, I do want more otters in Doom, Umbra, absolutely. But I know what is possible and what's not. So I'm not holding out too much for that. But eventually, it's probably something that I'll just put in myself. But
Well, I mean, Doog got in somehow, so who knows? Maybe you'll get a little Easter egg someday.
I still find it funny that they the few time they put out a hotfix is to remove something that almost nobody found. Like
It's so benign too.
it honestly, I was a little bit like insulted by that. I was like, really? Like you're gonna put that in the patch notes too? Like there's so much more you could put in the patch notes. There's so many better things you could hotfix. I'm like, this is what you're spending your time on. Really?
Am I correct in thinking that the Doog acknowledgement and hotfix was in the same update that changed the whole Slayer gate?
I have no idea about that one.
Because I think that would have been update. Oh God, I'd have to go through the Slayers
I know it was like a
Club
week
stuff and
after.
look.
It was like a week after. Actually, I don't think it was because I feel like I beat Ultra Nightmare after that happened.
Okay,
And
Choco
I
says
definitely-
different patches, which is
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sensible.
Yeah, because it took me a minute to beat the tag on Ultra Nightmare because the stupid spirits. I still hate that mechanic. Like I get it, but I hate it.
Yeah, I think the decision to lock down that one enemy type to that one specific weapon mod is counter to the game's philosophy up until that point, where you have the option to do things, and that is it's been distilled down to no, you're gonna use microwave beam.
For me, it's not even so much the forcing the player to use microwave beam. Like I fine, that's fine, whatever. What annoys me is that there's no sense of balance with the spirited demons. Like a possessed Hell Knight is at least 4 times more of a threat than a possessed tyrant, and that makes no sense. Like, you give possession to an enemy that is quick and does CC damage, that is immediately much more of a threat than any other possessed enemy. Like, a possessed carcass would be more of a threat than a possessed tyrant, and that to me is just not balanced correctly. Like, there should be different buffs depending on the demon. It shouldn't just be a straight speed buff for all the demons. Speed buff, health buff. Possessed Archfire or possessed Arachnotron, like that rapid fire machine gun, is just ridiculous at long range. And yeah, you can dodge it by doing like circle strafes in the air, but nevertheless, it's so much more of a threat than like half the other possessed enemies, and it makes it so that the balance of base enemies is nothing like the balance of possessed enemies. Like it's completely all over the place.
Yeah, I would kind of agree with that too, where like any of the spirit buffed tyrants essentially just become slightly more of a bullet sponge, and
yeah,
some of their attacks maybe happen a little bit faster and a little bit more frequently, but they still don't, even though they walk faster, they're not really a demon that's designed to traverse spaces, so they still kind of just hold still and tank rockets and grenades and ballista shots like champions. So
and then you have a possessed Marauder who he doesn't falter anymore. So the whole mechanic of getting him to falter when you shoot him, that doesn't work. So,
yeah, if you're lucky in that whole Slayer gate, you can get a ballista and then an SSG shot, but you need to hit that SSG shot as you're turning and running away from him, otherwise he's gonna smack you a good one.
I've never gotten him to falter when he's possessed. Like, none of my shots, even when I like look back and it's like seemingly perfectly timed, he just doesn't falter. So yeah, if the whole gimmick of the enemy is getting him to falter, removing that gimmick kind of defeats the whole purpose of the enemy and makes him incredibly unbalanced. So,
well, I guess we'll see what they end up doing that with the rebalanced Holt version 3 Slayer gate. It'll be the 3rd time that it's been redone. So
yeah, ironically, it encourages people to use tactics to beat him that are not the intended mechanics. Like, if you could use the ice bomb trick, people would do it because beating him the normal way just won't work.
Yeah.
So
outside
like
of that, it's sticky bombing his feet.
I get him to go up on the top platform and then jump down, and I lock on burst him while he's jumping down. Definitely not an intended mechanic, and I think if id knew about it, they would try and patch that out, because there's cheesing the Marauders. But that's what it encourages. But it makes people want to do, because like if you play it the normal way, you're going to get killed because he's not going to get faltered, and he's going to smack you in the face, and then that CC will lock you down, and he'll smack you again, and then his dog will slow you down, and then he'll smack you again, and if you somehow are alive after that, he'll still smack you again.
Right.
So
on top of the recastling, respawning carcasses that never go away. I feel like that gate could be, if they wanted it to be that difficult with the possessed Marauder and have carcasses in that gate, I feel like just not making the carcasses respawn. Like carcasses should not be treated as a fodder type demon where they're constantly a presence, because it is a heavy demon and because it is such a nuisance and such a threat, you should be able to permanently remove it from the chessboard.
Yeah, I'm like 50% or more, say like 70% certain that that was a vindictive buff. Like they were salty that people called their Slayer Gate easy, and so they made it way too hard to the point where it's not a challenge, it's just difficult. And there's a big difference between difficulty and challenge.
Yeah, tedium versus challenge.
Yeah.
Well,
But I have no proof. It's just a theory.
thank you for that segment, Ferb. Are you going to be able to come back and say like another 45-ish minutes for open discussion between you, Buckio, and I?
Yeah, I'll be here in the chat.
Cool. Right on, man. We will go ahead and get our next guest, Buckio, in here. Thanks for taking the time to be with me, man. Super appreciate it.
Yeah,
you said you're in Texas, correct?
I'm in Austin, yes, and it sucks.
Yeah, heart goes out to you, man, for real.
2 days in particular were bad. They recently all the stores started opening, but I had like no food in the house, not even like canned food. So I was like, I found some leftover cheesecake in the fridge. I have no idea how long it's been in there.
Oh God.
But you know, I took a risk.
Are you doing okay now? Do you have food now?
Well, I don't have more food in the house because I never have food in the house. I'm not a cook.
Okay.
But the shops have opened again. So
okay.
I'm good.
All right, man. That's good to know.
But yes, we're all good now.
Right on, dude. Well, thank you for hanging out. We'll get you back in here in about 45 minutes.
Thanks for having me. I'll see you then.
All right. Our next guest here is the ever thoughtful, ever talented Buckio. Welcome, sir.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, you know. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning for me right now.
Well,
doing pretty spiffy. How about you, man?
Doing good. Thanks for taking the time to hang out with us.
Hell yeah.
So why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do with the game as a whole?
Okay. My name is Buckio. I make YouTube videos about Doom Eternal, and I stream it occasionally here and there. And most videos that I'm mostly known about for Doom Eternal would be the Console Slayer guides, as well as a few other videos that have been popping up about elitism, and as well as the frame rate, how it affects the gameplay in Doom Eternal. So that's me.
Awesome. And I'm gonna actually find your YouTube channel real quick here.
Well, you can just look up Buckio and you'll be able to see my face.
Or alternatively, you can click this link that I have dropped in the Doomrave channel chat and go.
Oh my gosh, that's an imposter right there.
Oh, yeah, Nugget Man powers.
Yeah, here's the thing. I've been trying to fix it. So where you can have the URL link to like show Buckio, but it has my old my PSN name there.
How? Okay. I mean, that is definitely your YouTube channel because I just went there.
It is my YouTube channel. That's my old username that unfortunately I don't know how to fix.
All right. Well, best of luck with that so that becomes a little bit more consistent.
Yes.
So we've had this conversation before, but when you first saw this game be announced, what initially drew you to Doom Eternal?
Oh my gosh. I can remember that day so well. I remember it all started in 2018 when I got a gaming laptop. I wanted to get into PC gaming a little bit, but I didn't know much about the specs and all the stuff that you gotta know about PC gaming. So I just got a gaming laptop that looked good for me, and I just want to emulate games. I was using YouTube, and I was just looking at videos because it was nice to go on a computer and watch YouTube videos without it stuttering. And I was watching some YouTube videos. I was watching Battlefield videos, and then one video that came across that caught my eye was Doom Eternal E3 2018 Phobos base, and I got intrigued. I heard a lot about Doom. I didn't know a lot about Doom. At the time I was just like, oh, Doom. You play as this guy and you shoot sprites. And when I watched the video, I was amazed. I was blown away by. I want to say the testosterone levels that I was feeling when I was watching that trailer. I was amazed. The enemy variety and the music of just pumping. It absolutely amazed me, and it intrigued me.
That
And
raw
to the point-
adrenaline.
Yeah, just the adrenaline. And funny enough, actually, when I was looking at the E3 trailer, it reminded me about 2016 Doom. And I played the demo of 2016 Doom on my PS4, and I remember initially before I kind of got bored of it because I didn't like it. I didn't like the style at the time, and that was just me like playing Battlefield so many times that's how my brain was wired. So seeing Doom Eternal, I wanted to play 2016 before I played Doom Eternal when it came out, and it made me actually fall in love with the Doom series, going back to the old Doom titles and just seeing their glorious moments and what makes them so good. Especially appreciating Doom 2016 a little bit more, even though I was using the weapon wheel on the PC version of my gaming laptop, because I was just used to that. I didn't know you could actually rebind the key binds, so I would just use the weapon wheel because I wasn't comfortable with stretching my fingers along like big spider fingers. I couldn't do that. But yeah, that's what really drew me in.
And honestly, like the weapon wheel thing is something that I know a lot of people who started off that way, because it is, in terms of modern games where, like, for example, Battlefield and like the Call of Duty's more mainstream stuff, you're not used to having that many tools at your disposal and needing to press that many individual buttons on a keyboard. If we're looking at specifically at the PC version, and from a console standpoint too, the weapon wheel is more accessible. Like I know Dude Hell Yeah, for example, when he first started playing Doom Eternal and stuff, he had the same symptom where he would use the quick swap bind to like go between two guns, but anything else he would use the weapon wheel for. I was the same way with Doom 2016, where like early on, because the number row for me was still relatively inaccessible, and some of these like, more power-based weapons were bound so far to the right on the number row, like the Gauss cannon and stuff, and the chain gun.
Yeah.
The weapon wheel was intuitive. It just kind of made sense to use it. So that's something that it becomes more accessible the more you play, but from a first playthrough standpoint, it's a perfectly reasonable thing to do.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and especially when you play it on console. I mostly primarily played on console too, and I played the PC version of 2016, and after that, I actually bought it again on PS4 because I felt as if I felt more comfortable playing with a controller. And I remember being so frustrated, and like sometimes I like give up and like take a break from Doom 2016 after I'd played in Arena, and I just die over and over again because that's when I didn't fully understand the Doom dance. But when I started playing on the PS4 version of Doom 2016, I felt as if I had a much better time. I was able to use like the weapon wheel and swap between the weapons and aim a little bit more appropriately because I was just used to the controller. And I felt as if that's where the weapon wheel shined a little bit more. I didn't know much about PC Doom 2016 having like those crazy quick swaps and the keybinds until I actually started watching videos of people playing it, and just like at a high level where you just see like the swaps between the Gauss cannon, the rocket launcher, the super shotgun, and the Gauss and the rocket launcher and the heavy cannon. It just blew my mind away, and I think that's what really got me into the PC gaming for Doom and Doom Eternal, just to be able to achieve those levels of just like high intense gameplay where everything's just so quick, just bam, bam, bam.
Yeah, I can specifically point to Klockner's Cattinger Sanctum as being the thing that made me go,
That's the one. That's the one.
yep. And that's it is that way for a lot of people because it has so many views, and his channel is kind of based around that play style for that era of Doom. That was where I realized, oh, the weapon wheel is okay. So how is he reaching all of these key weapons? And that's when I started to really like play with rebinding stuff. And people who know my playstyle now know that it's gotten pretty extremely focused around having all of those weapons be quickly accessible and all of these other reasons for doing that. But that is, when I saw the Cattinger Sanctum gameplay stuff, I was like, oh shit, okay. that's how you do that. All right, I'm in, I'm down, this is awesome. So that is, I know that's a thing for a lot of people too, where they see that gameplay, and they know it's on PC, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, time to do some work and figure out what and how this person does this stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So what specifically about Eternal keeps drawing you back to the game?
I want to say what keeps drawing me back to the game. I highly enjoy the combat loop, and I just feel like the game is just very replayable. But another aspect besides that really draws me back into Doom Eternal would be the community. I feel as if I have a small presence within the community. That's how I feel, but I feel as if I have a presence that's just kind of big to some people with some of my videos. I know I've done a couple of like quick swap guides or meat hooking guides or even ballista boosting guides, and I feel just trying to find ways that, hey, maybe I can improve my gameplay with this sort of thing, and maybe I can apply that into a video so I can teach somebody else how to do that. But yeah, I just feel as if the community is just something that like makes the game more enjoyable to me.
So largely it's based around like having people of a like mind who provide positive attitude stuff, and you want to help contribute to that, correct?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel as if it's a really nice space, the Doom community, just to be in, and I feel as if it's just a little bit more enjoying, especially in Doom Eternal, watching people who play Doom Eternal, people who are just in the Discord communities, like the Doom Discord server, or there'll be some people in Spicy Demons, or being able to meet people. Actually, I'll use that as an example. Meeting new people and like their own play style as well as like their own personality. I think that's what really keeps me going with Doom Eternal. It keeps bringing in new things. I feel as if I learn something new every day. Maybe I know how to I learn how to quick swap a little bit better thanks to somebody, or maybe I meet somebody new who's a new streamer or just a new person in the Discord server that's just really nice.
Agreed. I think that was one of the things that kind of, as a whole, kept me coming back to it as well. And this is somewhat true of like I guess the Quake community too, because there's a lot of overlap between those two games in the PC space, but where you can ask a question that maybe to people who have had what is almost a year's worth of experience in the game might seem obvious to them. Reply to that question to somebody new like it's the first time they've been asked that question, instead of scoffing or looking down on somebody for not understanding how the quick swaps work, or why frame rate impacts the meat hook speed, what those differences are and stuff. You have a much harder time of finding anybody who is going to be a jerk about it than it is to find somebody who's going to be helpful. You will find far more positivity here than I think in many other gaming communities.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I am more surprised. I remember when I was first introduced to the Doom community and just seeing like this overwhelming positivity within the community. It surprised me. Before, I used to be heavily involved with two communities. It was Rainbow Six Siege and Smash Brothers, and I didn't see a lot of positivity there. I'm just gonna say that. But making the transition over to Doom Eternal and just seeing that community, it really caught my attention and made me gravitate towards this community a little bit more. I feel more welcome. I feel as if like it's a nice presence where, hey, whatever level that you play at a great level, and you're just welcome.
Yeah, that's I think a huge thing that keeps me coming back to. There's always something to learn, and there's always somebody to learn from, and there's always somebody to teach, and that's that revolving door kind of we got helped, we'll help you sort of thing. That I think continues to pass itself around the community more than the elitism stuff does, where like, oh, if you don't know about this, why don't you know about this? Learn it on your own. Learn how to do it on your own. You'll always find somebody who is willing to teach you how to do it, which is super cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, in terms of things that you're trying to do with the game, whether it's, you know, gameplay goals, or like with your content creation, like your YouTube channel, your streaming, what personal goals do you have surrounding the game?
Personal goals surrounding around the game. One of them I will say is I want to be the best that I can possibly be. I know that I have improved significantly over the course of like 3 months or so with my gameplay and being able to survive a little bit longer than normal on Nightmare. But I'm inspired to always try and grow every single day, try and improve over something. If it's something small, then that's something good to gain. If something big, you know, that's even something bigger to gain. And you know what? This could also be applied to YouTube as well. I want to be able to learn something new that can actually help me grow a little bit better and become a better person in terms of my gameplay or maybe my content creation. Because I personally believe that if I spend a day without learning something new, and that could be something small, like, I could just use my French press instead of using the Keurig that just keeps sucking in so much water but won't work. Or, hey, I could fold this and it'd be a little bit quicker than how I normally fold it. Something small, then it's a day well spent. But if I don't learn something, then I kind of wasted that day.
So just like essentially you're trying to find ways to improve constantly.
Yes.
Awesome. It's a good mentality to have.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to put myself in the point where like I'm perfect. I'm the best person there is, just because I got 1,000 views on a video. I got a shout out. Hey, I don't want to think like that. I don't want to have a hubris or a huge ego. I want to be the best that I can possibly be, but improve myself. Whether that's my gameplay, whether that's my content creation, or how my content affects people. I want to try and keep improving, because I know there's always room for improvement. There's no such thing as perfection. But who knows? You'll be perfect to somebody in their eyes, but I feel as if there's always something in room for improvement. Like I want to be able to complete UN on base UN, best base campaign, and the Ancient Gods. That's one big goal.
It's kind of that mentality. I think is partially maybe why everybody wants to help each other, because for example, if we look at like Zai or Zamide or James, people who have kind of like, you know, been in the speedrun mentality and stuff, they have that exact same mentality, where none of them are necessarily attempting to outdo each other. They're trying to outdo themselves, and by extension, you know, if their times get lower than another person's, it feels that drive for the other to kind of compete, but they're not really competing to try and take the number one spot or the number two spot from the other. They're trying to take their number one spot for themselves in their heart. And that's cool to see that become... It's like a cascading effect. You see Zai have that mentality, and then when they're asked questions, when Zai happens to use a microphone, he tends to answer like we were talking about earlier. So what to people who are highly involved in the Eternal community we take for granted, he answers them like it's the first time he's been asked about that question. And that's so cool to me, to be able to have somebody like be asked something that they've been asked 1,000 times before and respond with the same level of passion like it's the first time they've been asked that question. How do you PB rocket so fast? Well, I keep my binds accessible, and it's a matter of practicing the timing. Precision bolt doesn't need to be held and scoped in fully to activate, and you can explain it in that detail, and that person gains that knowledge, and then you've all of a sudden created another juicer. And that continues to kind of go throughout the rest of the community because they share that knowledge with someone else who's maybe picked up the game for the first time, or they tell their friend about it and be like, look at what this dude has done in this crazy world record speed run, and I can do this too. And it drives that passion, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, why would you want to limit that knowledge? Just, like, teach someone. It's fun. Help them improve. You are your own competition, after all, at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah, you're the only person that can improve yourself, and you can learn from others, but you still have to put in the work to do it. And I think that's awesome that everybody has that mentality. So what specific problems and bugs? Because let's jump ahead in this topic a little bit.
Okay.
We already kind of know that you played on console because you mentioned it earlier. I think out of so far all of the panelists today, you you the most experience on multiple consoles and PC, because I know you have a Switch copy and you play it pretty regularly too, don't you?
I'm a peasant, yes.
But you also have the broadest and at a certain level, by extension, the deepest level of knowledge on how different the game is first-hand experience between the Switch copy, like base console PS4 stuff, and then with your newer gaming PC being able to experience it at like 160, 200 frames per second at like full ultra details. So
yeah.
Kind of talk about that a little bit. Like how broad is that difference?
Yeah, I mean, like, I first started playing Doom Eternal on the base PS4, and it's nothing different. It's just 60 FPS. You got to play with a controller, and there's some frame rate drops here and there. I know at the beginning of Hell on Earth, when you hop out of the building after you kill the first Hell Priest, there's a huge FPS drop in there from the Titan who's just like rising up in front of you. There's a couple of those moments here and there, but it never really bothered me as much. Playing with the controller, it was interesting. I know that before my movement was very slow. Sometimes my reaction would be a little, but all in all, I was playing Ultra Violence and I was actually having fun. I remember playing on the second Slayer gate where it has like the tyrants, where you're first introduced to the tyrants. I remember I was just shooting them with sticky bombs. I was scared. I was hopping around. I was like freaking out. I was like, I was freaking out because there was like these big demons that I was intimidated about. But it was more of like a slow approach with the game. I wasn't trying to go through the like very huge and elitist style things where like I was fast paced. I was getting all my shots, all that. And then I moved over to the PC aspect of things, where I actually bought the game on my gaming laptop, and I realized, wow, my 1050 can actually run this. So I was, cranking my details down a little bit so I can have more frames. And then I was experiencing like the meat hook, and I was just like, wow, this yeet hook is just amazing. It's like this really huge feeling of dopamine that just struck through me when I first experienced the yeet hook. It was amazing, and just being able to use like the mouse. And it was a little rough for me actually getting adjusted to the mouse and keyboard, because I felt as if like I would be aiming, but then I would like lose train of thought of my movement on the keys. So then I would be constantly swapping between these two. Like I'll be moving, but I will forget how to shoot. I'll be shooting, but I forget how to move. And especially when like readjusting with the keybinds where I had to like press buttons as I'm moving just to swap between the weapons. It was like it felt like I was playing piano, but except my instrument was things that would bring death upon the demons. So it was definitely a really huge experience. That's what I'll say. Like playing on PS4 opposed to PC, I felt as if I was playing two separate games. They're the same game, except I'm having like a huge difference in terms of my gameplay and my experience with my reactions and my aiming, and as well as the quick swaps. And I remember when the Switch version came out, I bought it, and even though that it's a console and it has a weapon wheel, there's a different experience with that too. I most notably like the Joy-Cons. The Joy-Cons, they don't work for FPS games. I played Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus on the Switch back in 2018, and I remember having such a hard time playing like with the leaning and the aiming because the Joy-Cons just didn't work. They just didn't work for that. And playing it with the Doom Eternal, like I felt that same feeling. But one thing that really stuck out to me a lot was just the frame rate. PS4 60 FPS. PC gaming, I was able to go up to like 130 on my laptop, and there was a bit of a difference. The Switch version, 30 FPS, and that's when I started noticing that, like, does FPS affect this game? Because I'm seeing everything going so super slow. And like when I'm playing on like Ultra Nightmare, when you go through the cultist base basement, it's a breeze. Like, I genuinely mean this. It's a breeze because the AI is so slow. The projectiles, mostly you see the projectile and then you react to it. You move out of the way. I can read a book as I see that projectile and then move.
Yeah,
that's how the FPS affected it. It was absolutely insane.
The Mancubus is almost trivialized at 30 frames.
Oh my gosh.
And that's actually like, that's kind of nuts to me. The handheld version, and I get when you're playing at a lower frame rate, like you're naturally at a disadvantage because you don't have that much more information for your hand-eye coordination to work with. Like higher frames gives your brain more, whether your eye is actually perceiving that, you can feel those frame rate changes.
Yeah.
So to go down to 30 and have projectile speed actually change that much is kind of shocking. When your frame rate video came out, there was a lot of stuff that I had kind of supposed, like had thought would maybe be frame rate dependent, but there was a lot of stuff that I didn't realize was tied to that frame rate. The tentacles, for example, being like essentially within their range, hit scanners at above like 144 frames, whereas at like 30 frames they can't touch you. Like they, unless you are holding still, they will not touch you.
Yeah, if you're strafing around them, they will not touch you at all. They'll basically hit right next to you, but you'll never take any damage.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely nuts. I remember coming across that. I was grabbing the Sentinel token. I believe that's what it was, the Sentinel token, and there was those two tentacles in Super Gore Nest, and they sort of like trap you and like catch you by surprise as you're going to go and pick up the Sentinel token, and when they're going to start attacking you, I walked through them, and they swung at me, but I didn't take any damage, and that's the first time I did that. I was like, whoa, what is going on? That's when I started like realizing, like, wow, this is an easy version of Doom Eternal because of the frame rate. And not only like 30 FPS, I'm gonna be honest with you, playing Doom Eternal, when you go from 60 FPS on the PS4 and you go like to 130 to 200 FPS on the PC, and then you go to 30 FPS for the Switch, it's a bit of an eyesore to sometimes look at. Especially with like how you're so used to everything just being so fast paced, and when everything goes super slow, you feel as if like you're on something.
Like the whole game's been tossed in purple goo.
Yeah, purple goo.
That's yeah. I've been half tempted to get a Switch so I can have the game on the go, but I would be remiss to spend the money on it and find out that my uh my heavily PC oriented brain can no longer handle 30 FPS.
But here's what I will say though: when you play the Switch version of Doom Eternal, and you play it for hours, you play it for maybe 3 hours, like I did, and you're just so used to the 30 FPS. When you go back to that 165 refresh rate monitor of yours, and you play Doom Eternal, oh my gosh, it's like you just played it day one.
Yeah, speaking of that, because you have a fairly similar grade system to what mine is now. Have you noticed like specific segments of the base campaign become much harder? Like things that you could pretty much breeze through on like the PS4 and the Switch being a little bit more difficult to get through because of some of the weird frame rate based melee and projectile physics in the game.
Yeah, actually. While Doom Eternal looks very, very nice on my PC, it's very hard. I have noticed a couple of those things. As I was building my difficulty based on frame rate video, I was originally working on it with my laptop and recording footage from that, but then I built the PC, and I remember I was testing out the enemies, because on the laptop I was testing enemies at 120 FPS to 100 FPS. And then going on the PC, I was able to clock at 200 to 240 FPS. Sometimes I hop up to 300 FPS depending on the area I'm in. And I remember noticing the Hell Knights just zipping to me. They would just lunge at me, but they would sort of ice skate towards you and just smack you when you're relatively far away. I've noticed other demons are doing that too. The Doom Hunter, that's one of them. The Doom Hunter with CC. Sometimes the CC will just kind of pull you in, or like it'll stun you in the air a little bit and push you back. But the Doom Hunter would just sort of like pinball you around. He would skate towards you, and then you go the other direction from the CC, and then he'd skate towards you again, and then just like push you away. And I remember being like entranced by that. I was like, what is this? Being used to playing at 120 FPS to 100 FPS on my gaming laptop at 720p with everything lowered down with no shadows, it was terrible to look at. I'll never do that again. It's just for the FPS, it wasn't working. It just wasn't worth it, man. Even for the yeet hooks. But at 200 FPS, it felt as if like almost every demon was like that. The Carcass just Beyblading me over and over again, especially zipping to my location as he's teleporting, and like fodder demons like the zombies. It felt as if like they had like extra range as they're like coming in to bite me. It definitely felt as if like things got a little bit harder when I turned off VSync. I now play with VSync on for 165 FPS. But sometimes I'm just debating to like move down a little bit more to like 120 FPS just to make things a little bit easier for me.
Yeah, to find that balance between having a higher refresh rate, higher frames in general, but also not having the game hit scan you essentially, where some of these projectiles and some of these melee strikes will hit you no matter how hard you try and avoid them. So that is something I'm struggling with myself in recent history, especially after doing like Horde Mode 2, some of the other like master levels, Blood Swamps master level and stuff. There are some scenarios where having that high frame rate, you gain benefit, but you also take that trade-off.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like the game looks good. You got the yeet hook, but then you have demons that just like they almost become like hit scanners, but also like aimbotters. I mean, like the Mancubus and the Pain Elemental. But more so, I noticed it with Hell Baron, the Barons of Hell too. Like I see as if like they aim right ahead of you as you're strafing in the air, but they always have that precise aiming where they just like knock you in.
Yeah, they like always know where you're gonna go.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter if you strafe to the left and you know when the animation ends as the projectile starts coming through the air, you strafe to the right, but no, they hit you. I noticed that happening with the imps as well. It's just absolutely absurd.
Yeah, they like fake out. I actually
Yeah.
had this with the randomizer the other day. There was a marauder in like the underwater portion where you first get into the underwater facility, like after the first swimming section.
Mhm.
And it's that like glass hallway after the shark and stuff. And the marauder had spawned in there, and he started the axe throw animation. And by this point, I'm pretty familiar with how those animations look and where to go and how to avoid them. And you can sidestep that projectile once it's left the marauder's hand without having
Yeah.
to use a dash. His animation finished, and the projectile had maybe like 1 frame before it actually rendered, and I sidestepped to where I thought it was gonna go, but he curveballed it. It went at a completely different angle from where the animation finished and smacked me square in the face. So that's something that I am kind of concerned is also frame rate dependent. Like if you don't let that animation play out entirely, that AI will correct all the way down to like the last microsecond to hit you.
Yeah, no, I remember dealing with that with the Marauder, where he would just hit me even as I sidestep or even as I'm moving. It's like locking onto me. There's been moments like that where I have died.
Are there other bugs across the platforms that are like consistent problems? Does like the no target and blood punch failure stuff happen on the Switch version as often as it does on the PS4, as often as it does on the PC for you, or are there specific platforms where some of those problems are like lessened or exacerbated, for example?
Oh no, on the Switch version, no target and blood punch not happening. It happens. It happens many times. I remember there was like a gargoyle who just hopping up right next to me, and I'm just chainsaw him. I'm like Leatherface. I'm just swinging him. I'm swinging him, but I'm not even hitting him at all. So he's just standing there, and he gets up, he brushes his shoulders, and he looks at me, and I'm still swinging, and then eventually it connects. So there has been moments where I've dealt with those issues.
So there's not like one platform that is immune to that versus another.
No, not that I believe so. I do know that the Switch version, at the time when I picked it up, it was Update 2, because when it came out, we had Update 3. And that's when we had like some balances and some changes for example, Battle Mode. The Meme Beam, the Microwave mod, and the D-Blade were removed. But on the Switch version, the Battle Mode, it was still in there. And they still had some of that Update 2 stuff added to it, so I'm not sure if they have updated it to Update 3 right now, but from the looks of it, this is a bit of an older version that the Switch version is running on.
Oh, so the Switch version of the game is actually even just like it's an older version of Eternal even.
Yeah, I believe so.
Wow. Okay,
And
I
I'm
was not
basing this
aware
off of
that.
Battle Mode, actually. I'm basing this off of Battle Mode. I'm not entirely sure if it is, but from the Battle Mode looks of it, when I first played it, it had like the mods that were removed on the PC and PS4 and Xbox versions of Doom Eternal. So it was a little interesting for me to even see that.
Yeah, I mean, if it still has the microwave beam and the destroyer blade, then you would have to assume that it's just running like an older version of the game in
Yeah.
general, because Super Gornest Master Level isn't on the Switch. Ancient Gods Part 1 isn't on the Switch.
Ancient Gods Part 1 came in Update 3, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's probably why.
That's okay. I hadn't really thought those things out entirely, I guess, but yeah, it must be Button must have been given a specific version of the game to port to the Switch. So I wonder then if like when Ancient Gods Part 2 comes out, if the Blood Punch and Chainsaw fixes will be included with the Switch version then, or if it will end up being always late on that sort of stuff?
What I think is first they're gonna incorporate. This is what I personally think. I think they're gonna incorporate the fixes onto the PS4 and Xbox and the PC version of Doom Eternal, and then port that fix over to the Switch version.
I sure hope so. If it's already this far behind, that's quite odd. Okay, well that's new information for me. I hadn't really thought about that. So since you've moved to PC as well, at least more actively versus the other consoles and stuff, is there modded content that you've tried, either in terms of like custom master levels or like horde modes, 1 or 2, or anything that affects like core gameplay stuff, the Kako Zoom mod, weapon changes, anything like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In terms of modded gameplay, I have tried out Horde Mode 1 and 2. I have tried out Delta and Kaiser's master level campaigns, especially the one where you had to fight 2 con makers and 2 possessed Doom Hunters. I also have some retextures for the mods. Like I have the Slayer, he looks like he's diamond and all platinum. And I have the Golden Carbon Praetor suit, Slayer skin. And I also have the PB scope that has my little juice emote on there. Which, thanks to CJ, he was actually able to implement that for me and remove the green tint so I can actually see a little bit better. But I think in terms of that, I haven't used any gameplay modifiers as much as I'd really like to. And there's a lot of problems I have with the game that these gameplay modifiers would definitely fix for me and make my experience a little bit more pleasant, but a part of me doesn't want to actually just change the game, but play it as it is right now.
Relatable. Are there specific reasons for that? Is it because like it just feels like it's not doing what id Software wants for the game, or is it because you want id Software to fix the problems and not rely on community fixes?
Yeah, that's it actually. I want id Software to fix these problems, and I feel as if I were to use these community fixes, where it's always at the back of my head. It's always at the back of my head every time I play Super Gorn S Master Level, where the Marauder, he keeps pulling up his shield because the mecha zombies are just shooting at him, and he's spawning the wolf. There's just always the thought in the back of my head where I think about putting that mod up. Put the mod, fix it. The Cacodemon, I shoot a sticky bomb at him, and he does that little, like, that little swoop strafe, and then he zooms up to my face. The mod is in the back of my head. But at the same time, I want to play the game that id Software has made, but voice my concerns about these problems I'm experiencing. And I feel as if I want id Software to directly fix these problems. I don't want the community to fix the problems for me, because if the community fixes it, id Software won't fix it. id Software will know that, okay, these people fix it. And I'm not really assuming that they're going to be thinking like this, but I don't want it to be like I put in these fixes and id Software has the community fix it and then keeps the problems for other people who cannot mod this game. For example, Switch owners and PS4 and Xbox owners.
Yeah, that's honestly that's a thing that I've struggled with too. I recently downloaded the No Knockback mod that Ferb initially created and has been updated by another user on the Nexus. And it is a very different experience, because I found myself being frustrated with getting pinballed around by 2 Marauders at the same time with a bunch of fodder and stuff, and that sort of pressure from those demons is hard to counteract, and removing the knockback as a whole felt like a very strange experience after being used to taking the damage and being locked down. I also at the same time can't say that I actually liked having the knockback removed entirely. I think stuff like that has a place in the game. I just think the way that the system is implemented currently is not ideal, and does too much to punish the player. So there has to be a middle ground there, but that is something that why I've prevented myself from doing that much gameplay modification, because it feels like it's not, like I'm not gaining enough experience to know why the systems don't feel good to be a part of currently.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And again, like I could throw these gameplay modifiers on, and I can make my Ultra Nightmare runs much easier. Like I could probably get a lot further than I normally did before. It'll just be a much more pleasant experience, and it will be less of that BS I'll be going through. However, I would feel as if I'm cheating by adding these gameplay modifiers, because yes, this fixes the problems that I dislike, the community dislikes, but this is the community fix, and this is a mod at the end of the day. This isn't an official patch, an update that id Software implemented that actually fixes these problems and improves the overall gameplay experience. So that's why I'm a little iffy about putting in these gameplay modifiers to change my gameplay. I would feel as if I'm cheating instead of just playing the normal way that id Software has built. The normal game that id Software has built for us and released to us.
Yeah, would rather have to see them address those problems and maybe work with the community as a whole on that, instead of just like Band-Aid fixing it ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, along those notes then, like what do you hope to see from the game as a whole in the future in terms of like content updates and stuff? What do you want to see from this?
In the future, what I really want to see for Doom Eternal, one, I want battle mode to be fixed. I want to be in a better state than it is right now. Two, I'd like a little bit more of bug fixes and more of like listening to the community further on in the future for Doom Eternal in terms of like our issues and the problems with the bugs, as well as perhaps a little bit more of content.
Are there any specific hopes that you have for like Ancient Gods Part 2, like in terms of story content, or?
Well, in terms of story content, actually, because we have the Dark Lord and the Doomslayer who look pretty identical, I hope that they don't try and start swapping the old lore of Doom Guy and start saying that, oh, you know, he was created in the image of the Dark Lord and he was just thrown onto Earth like he was a 40-year-old man. Because I'm hoping that they don't try and then start changing the lore and still keep the old lore that are like, oh, you know, Doom Guy, he's related to BJ Blazkowicz and Captain Keen and all that.
So like the old lineage stuff.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like they're doing that, like with the, you know, the classic helmet design and stuff and the cutscene in Sentinel Prime. It up to a certain point, it does feel like they're being like, yes, this is indeed the original Doom Guy from Doom 1, Doom 2, and Doom 64. Like it is the Doom Marine. He's just also hit a point in his demon slaying career where he is like he has become the professional demon killer. Like it is his sole purpose. So I would agree with you. I hope they don't go too far down the like you've got an identical evil doppelganger twin route.
Yeah, especially at the end when they show off the Dark Lord's face and you hear the Father or Vega say, "He is you." That's when I started getting a little like suspicious, but also worried that are they possibly gonna like forget about the old lore and then just focus on the Doomslayer and do a Dark Lord being one or something.
Well, I guess we'll have to see how that ends up going. It should be interesting. I'm also worried about them because the Dark Lord, from a lore perspective, just in terms of the story, seems to be the end game boss for Hell and its denizens as a whole. So if you kill him and get rid of him according to the story, all of the demons that are outside of Hell go away. So there are no more demon invasions. So the thing that I don't really want them to do is I want to see the story be wrapped up in a way, but I don't want to see Doom Eternal end, but I also don't want to see the Dark Lord become this, like... You know how, like, in cartoons, the bad guy always gets away, and they always have a next episode because the bad guy always gets away, sort of thing? Like, I don't want that to happen here. Like, I don't want, Dr. Claw is like a really good example for this because the guy's voice is almost identical. Inspector Gadget...
I'll get you next time, Gadget.
Yeah, exactly. Inspector Gadget never arrests Dr. Claw, ever. Dr. Claw always gets away. Cobra Commando always gets away. G.I. Joe never catches Cobra Commando because there always has to be a next episode. So, like, that sets this up for being... very much an 80s cartoon trope. He-Man. This game pulls a lot from He-Man, for example. Like when he's pulling the sword, his crucible out of the energy, the Argent energy pool.
Yeah.
In Taurus Nabad, he does the He-Man stance, and I don't want the Dark Lord to be this game's Skeletor. Like I want it to be wrapped up in a way that makes sense, but also still allows them to continue the game without dragging this character.
Eat the Argent energy, Doom Slayer!
Yeah, exactly. God, your voices
Oh
are
my
on
gosh.
point, my man.
Oh my gosh! I was also thinking, like, when you're thinking about, like, oh, you know how the villain always gets away. I was just thinking about the Dark Lord just flying away. You know, like Team Rocket.
Yeah, he just like hops into like some. Yeah, he like gets on the back of a Revenant and then jetpacks off with him. Like, and that's the sort of thing that you can kind of see happening with a game that pulls that much inspiration from 80s cartoon stuff. Admittedly, openly pulls that much inspiration from like He-Man. It wears it on its sleeve. I just don't want him to pull too much inspiration from it.
Oh, here's what I think. We're gonna fight the Dark Lord. We're gonna defeat the Dark Lord. But seeing how Doom Eternal, from the looks of it, we can tell how Doom 2016, Doom Eternal, they feel like a reimagining of Doom 1993 and Doom 2. Who's to say that the third Doom game from this reboot will follow the same, I want to say, storyline as Doom 64? We fight the Dark Lord, and then the next game, we fight the Mother of Demons.
Oh, okay.
The Mother.
Okay.
The Queen of Demons.
That's
That's what I'm saying.
we got Papa Demon, then we got Mama Demon.
And then you gotta fight the Uncle Demon.
Yeah, and then the Baby Bear Demon. I mean,
Bill, the Baby Bear.
you could be right, and that might be even something that they take it another step further with, like, because there's a lot of supposition when it comes to this game's lore too, where like maybe they do that like alternate universe thing where like sure Doom Guy's story in this one self-contained bubble universe ends up getting wrapped up, but there's always the next universe that also has its own version of hell, and like I don't know how much Legend of Zelda you've played, but like there's always an
Oh my
incarnation
gosh,
of
dude.
Link to go with the Ganon sort of thing.
Oh, I
there's,
know.
There's always a Doomslayer to go in tandem with the Dark Lord stuff. So maybe that's how they're gonna play it out. I just really don't want to see him be Skeletor or Cobra Commando.
No, I don't think so. But you know what? At the end of the day, Doom, the story is second. Okay?
Always
That's
secondary.
something that you have on the side. But the gameplay, that's the meat and potatoes of Doom. You're killing demons, nothing more, nothing less. If anything, they might do the whole Wolfenstein route where Doom Guy randomly he has twins, or maybe he has a daughter or a son, and then they're like the next Doom Slayer.
Yeah, the Blazkowicz line continues.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, let's maybe drag Ferb back in here.
Oh yeah, sir.
And see if we can maybe do some gameplay clip stuff and see if any of these things that we are discussing can be discovered in game. Ferb, are you still in chat? And would you please rejoin us in the voice channel if you are out there in the aether?
Please, sir.
Hello, Ferb.
Can you hear me?
We can indeed.
Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, I'm just playing around with some demons right now.
Are you playing with individual frame rate demons? Is that what's going on?
I'm playing on a higher frame rate, but I'm pretty sure what I'm playing with is stuff that would exist on any frame rate because it's just quirky demon AI, just being quirky.
Okay. Before the stream started, Ferb had snapped the rocket launchers off the shoulders of a revenant, and had stood in an area that the
They get
revenant
so
could not
mad
pass
when you
to.
do that.
Yeah, and the revenant did not like it.
Yeah, they start banging their head and screaming.
So we'll get this pulled up here. Are there any specific quirks in the AI that you wanted to like showcase, Ferb? Anything like that you've found in terms of like frame rate changes or just like odd behaviors where things maybe can't path appropriately? That Lenny Prowler standing there maybe doesn't care
that's what I
about
was
you
gonna say.
existing.
Other than Lenny here, who is a staple of Doom at this point, he's everywhere. I guess this Arachnotron just doesn't particularly care about me.
Well, that's rude
Oh,
of
we
him.
got a little bit of infighting here.
This guy, okay. See, this is when I would like infighting to actually do something, because like she's helping me out. She's my friend right now. I wanna help her, but like all I can do is hide behind her.
And it's so strange that like some of these demons will, because that Arachnotron doesn't by default start infighting other things when you get into this arena. So it has been triggered somehow to start this infighting, but the zombie being attacked by the Arachnotron does nothing to distract him from treating you as the priority.
I kind of went and hid, and then they all just got mad at each other, and this is what happened. So now, only when I kill all of them does she care. Lenny doesn't give a crap, though. He's cool.
He's just vibing. You know, that kind of reminds me, especially on our complex, there's this one arena with like the purple goop and the jump pads and monkey bars. If you play it on the Switch version and you die in that arena, you reload into a checkpoint where all the demons begin infighting. They just ignore you completely. You cannot progress through. You can't use that little like a little touchpad, so you can start the cutscene. So then like the pinky comes out from the side and you progress through.
Oh,
sort of
okay.
soft-locks you,
Yeah. Right outside the
everyone
convention
starts fighting.
parking.
Yep.
I wonder. Actually, I'm kind of curious if that's the same on all versions, or if that's maybe
No.
a byproduct of the weird.
It's the Switch version.
How
I've
odd.
tested it on the PS4 and the PC version. I've even tested it as like 30 FPS on my laptop to see maybe if the frame rate had to do with it, but no.
I
It
wonder if
happens
that's.
in our complex and Cultist Base.
It might be worth down patching on PC to
So
see
this
if
is
it's an
something-
update 2 thing.
That is an issue. Sticky walls. I'm sure y'all have encountered them. I think I might have
yes.
been on a lip there, but like you hit your head on something and then you just stay there. It's pretty common.
Yeah, the wall's got a lot of friction.
Everything in the Doom universe is made of Velcro, including the Slayer's helmet.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, nobody ties their shoes here.
Let's see what this guy does. Oh, am I leaving? Okay, so apparently standing right here.
Okay,
We
lets you see out of the level. Interesting.
See a
Yep.
little bit of the lava and some smoke.
He's really mad because he can't hop down to where I am.
Well, he's really mad because you're looking through the level. You're not supposed to be doing that.
Did you guys happen to catch when Bloodshot had dropped the clip of Drake playing through this, and that Revenant had gone back to the other side of that monkey bar gap? That Revenant that breaks out of the floor had like done some weird teleportation stuff where he got out of his spawn area and then came teleporting back. So like the pathing for that Revenant, if you go back across the monkey bar to the other platform, will he chase you over there?
Find out. Well, I guess he does still have his jetpack, but
Yeah,
He's just
theoretically nothing should really prevent him from getting over there because there are instances where he goes over there.
He's so shy.
Yeah,
I
and
didn't want to fall all the way
yeah,
down.
he has no interest in leaving that little cubby.
Oh, they go the long way.
Yeah, this is the arena I was referring to.
I wonder if that's specifically just like an update to problem.
I honestly don't know, actually. That is something worth looking into. I mean, I could definitely try and down patch on my gaming laptop and see maybe if I can die in that arena at 30 FPS and if it actually replicates it. But I can replicate it many times. Like, it's consistent on the Switch. For Cult of Space, just in the area where you first get the rocket launcher, if you die, the game basically soft locks you. You're stuck in, basically caged in where the rocket launcher is, as if you're in jail.
Oh
And the
yeah.
demons, they're infighting.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that, and whatever like floor-based trigger to open the next series of gates there to get out into that triple mank arena is no longer present.
Yep, it's gone.
There's so many sub variations of this game now, even just like
Oh, you
across.
see that? Did you see that fodder right there? Yeah, how he just zoomed in.
Yep. The zombies in particular, they just love to zoom on iframes.
Yeah, that head lunge where they like go to bite at you. Yeah, that's insane. Like that's that's actually
That is a huge
not
difference.
supposed to
That's a huge
happen.
difference, dude.
Nice shot.
I kind of didn't want to kill him, but
I want you to do me a favor and BFG them. Just one of them.
oh, it killed him all.
Oh, got all of them.
Oh my gosh, that was close.
Okay, we got one more.
Strongest demon in the game.
No,
That's
okay.
wise.
I don't have my input overlay up, but I did not throw a punch right there. My finger wasn't even on the punch button. So-
Did you break geometry behind you?
Possibly.
Yeah, it might be like a piece of furniture that's destructible and stuff. This level is notorious for that, where if you dash into a piece of destructible geometry, you'll throw your hands like you're punching stuff, and I have definitely blood punched things numerous times because of that. So like
That is weird.
the potted plant that's on the
I know
floor.
stuff just explodes when you touch it.
Yeah, like if you run into the potted plants, they just like
Chairs. Chairs explode.
No sitting.
Little conspiracy theory. This company, whatever is in this building, obviously makes airplanes, and there happens to be an airplane crashed into the building next door,
Ooh.
Ooh.
taking out the competition. I think.
It's calculated. It's a business move.
It reminds me of the meme of like these two airplanes, two different airliners, and they start having a race. They got passengers in there.
A little farther, buddy.
That's a little interesting how their fireball like arcs like that.
Well, and it's a highly mobile traversal based, mostly intended to be a flanking demon, and it can't figure out how to jump up stuff. When in other levels it jumps to areas that like the player themselves can't even get to.
Yeah, like
There's
Hell
two
on
more right
Earth.
there.
Mm-hmm. There's so many little AI quirks, man. It's just, and that's one of the things. Like, so the randomizer mod that Proday just released today.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things he was trying to tackle while he was working on it was getting the pathing for certain demons to work in levels where they were never designed to be. Like Whiplashes, for example, in Exultia, do not know what to do or where to go. Wherever they spawn, if it's on like a platform that they'd have to like jump from, they just wouldn't. So he had to correct a lot of stuff in terms of like AI pathing for certain levels because what is this hell?
I didn't do anything to him.
What?
I did nothing to this guy. Okay.
Okay, all right, sure. Okay, just do eternal stuff. Okay, this is like, this could not be going any better for like the weird quirkiness that this game does. Like,
I thought you were gonna find some like I thought you were gonna show off the FPS like tied mechanics of the Hell Knight, but oh my gosh, you killed him with one dash.
Oh, I didn't even dash into him. He just died.
Yeah, he didn't do anything. The thing just stared at him and then had a heart attack.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
this-
got a broken heart.
Yeah, this make is good.
Let me pull up my input overlay just so you can see what I'm actually pressing.
Wow. Oh man.
What is wrong with that fodder? That's interesting.
There's like a sweet spot where they don't know what to do.
And it's weird because
Oh
you're in a
gosh.
position where like the Manx fire should be able to damage you, but he's not spraying it. But if you go back down a little bit lower, he'll probably start throwing the fire out.
He
'cause you're
he wants to get into a position that he just can't. So I guess his AI is like stuck in a loop. And I don't know what this guy's doing. He's just getting pushed around.
Backup dancers. Oh my god, this reminds me of like this couple years old YouTube video of someone who was playing against a Dark Souls hacker, and they would just hide on a ladder until like they managed to like kill him by like pushing them off the ladder. This is what is reminding me right here. They can't attack you because you're just on a piece of wall.
Yeah, you're out of range of like literally every option that even somebody cheating in the game can't tackle properly.
Like, yeah, absolutely.
They just give up as soon as you get on the wall.
He starts fidgeting.
Oh, okay.
Oof.
It's weird. I don't know why it spawned me over there.
There was some. I should have had Bloodshot demo this earlier. There's some weird stuff with death warping while you're like about to grab a wall. Where like you can end up essentially infinitely increasing your field of view by
That right there where you respawn with a shot literally right in your face. That's some bull.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Like, there's
like
no
death
way you
warping
can dodge
back
that.
and being forced to hold still when the death warp places you back on geometry, and the screen is black. Like there is a window where you physically exist as an entity and the demons will still attack you, but you can't see anything and you can't move.
Yeah.
Which is a really, really odd design decision. Like I really like the fact that they didn't make falling off of platforms and stuff like an immediate death. There are a lot of instances where, not even just in like terms of speed runs, but like as a grace thing is really nice. But there's also instances where doing that and falling can get you killed faster by the demons because you actually have zero recourse to react to them spawning you in a place where you have no control over, essentially.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could also include how in Doom Eternal, whenever you're glory killing or chainsawing a demon, the demons all around you, they're just gonna gang up and they're gonna hit you until like you're back to being vulnerable, and then the damage will start ensuing. But in 2016, if you're glory killing or you're chainsawing a demon, they won't attack you.
Yeah, they kind of do the kung fu movie trope where they wait for the one guy to get knocked out before the next set of them rushes you. They kind of like stop doing stuff, and I think that actually worked really well.
Yeah.
Because in
And
this game,
especially-
if you get into a GK state, you're gonna end up getting surrounded, which is why like savagery ends up being kind of the meta rune at the high level, because and there's trade-offs there too, because not taking savagery means you have those iframes for longer, but it also provides the demons more time to do what they're doing to Ferb currently and just get into a circle around you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like when you compare the demon variety from 2016 to Doom Eternal, you're pinned to a lot of demons in encounters in Eternal compared to 2016. So to not have that little grace period where they just wait for you to finish the glory kill or the chainsaw as they like bundle up around you is I feel as if it's something that's needed. Because there have been moments, like especially in Horde mode. Horde mode is like a great example of that. You could glory kill something for health and armor just to stack back up. And as soon as you leave the animation, the CC from the demons that are attacking you, they push you away, and then you're back to the same health value you were before.
Yeah, or dead outright. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just dead. Like you don't even get to react. You're pushed for a second, and then you drop down to zero.
Okay, that double jump thing right there, and that big lunge
Yeah,
that
did you see
Dread
that?
Knight just did, that's all high frame rate dependent stuff. If you go back down to 60, they don't double slam like that, and that slide distance does
But also
not exist.
the way he just snapped to the right there. That's
They'll
another
change
one.
their trajectory midair too. Hell Knights are pretty guilty of that.
Well, the Doom Hunters, in terms of changing their trajectory, the Doom Hunters do that a ton as they skate around.
Ferb, would you be able to use your meat hook to get higher up on that second platform and see if you can get him to do the passive damage by jumping up there to chase you? Because I know that was something that
Yeah.
I think it caught a lot of us off guard that it happens. And I want to see if that's something that you can replicate.
If he ever jumps back down. Okay.
Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah, like it doesn't seem to do it every time, so I don't know.
Yeah, but still, though, the way that the Dread Knight just jumped down immediately just to attack you.
And like kind of got stuck between the actual floor and the pillar that he was standing
Yeah.
on too. There was like a frame where he couldn't quite. All right, we've we've broken him. Now he can't aim correctly.
He's crazy in the sun.
I never really noticed before that their swords increase drastically in size when they do stuff.
Mm-hmm. They kind of.
Oh,
It's what I've been calling the Smash Bros effect, because that was something that the original Smash Bros did, where it exaggerated limbs at the ends of certain attacks and stuff. It would increase like foot and hand sizes and stuff, which kind of gave away that the attack had happened. So I think this follows a similar principle, because the Marauder Axe does something similar, where it kind of expands in a really big cartoony way to be like, hey, I'm gonna hit you.
Could you imagine the Slayer's foot just getting really big as he kicks a demon? It's just how terrible would that look? And his fist gets like really massive, like Mario's when it's like he's punching Super Mario 64.
But I mean, it kind of works for this game. Like and like you said with Super Mario 64, like that is part of that animation style, and I think it really it works for the exaggeration aspect of stuff, to let the player know, like, hey, its attack is gonna get you. Okay, that.
Oh my gosh.
Are you trying to get it to CC you in air, or?
I'm just seeing what it does if it like jumps over these gaps. If I can get it to land on the mid-air like that.
I'm gonna see if I can find that clip from the other day, Ferb, where the thing just jumped up.
Yeah,
in the Exultia Slayer Gate, and just did 95 damage to you immediately.
The Revenants also have a huge lunge sometimes.
Yeah, you know what? At this point, I just believe that every demon with any lunge attacks is just FPS tied.
I would basically agree with that, because as far as I've been able to figure out, like the shield guys, for example, have a melee attack. They have like the shield bash. They'll kind of flip the thing at you, and it's got stun lock and like crowd control stuff attached to it. But I've never seen that melee attack cause them to slide towards you. It's largely, as far as I can tell, one where like they're basically taking an aggressive step forward, like his right foot is coming forward as he's doing a right hand swipe. That sort of stuff will cause them to. Oh, okay. Will cause them to slide at you very aggressively. Where is this clip?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If anything, I just feel as if the only demon within this game that has no FPS tied mechanics is just the cue ball.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty fair, actually. It's like the one passive demon in the entire game.
Yeah, big step up.
There is something that causes the cue ball to just like not hit stuff sometimes, though. Like even when it'll just like phase right through targets sometimes.
Ah, it failed me. One thing I have noticed, especially with the Pinky, is I was playing Horde mode too, and I would go up to a Pinky, I would meat hook up to him, and then I would just blood punch him. And you know, normally when you punch a demon, the game just kind of like snaps you towards the demon.
I'm mashing my jump button right now.
Oh my gosh.
Fuck.
Oh boy.
That's fine because he's cool. He's not though.
Give him a little high five.
What happens if you use both of your dashes real quick? Okay, it ended up letting you out.
Yeah,
I was
You
curious
you
if
can't do any damage to the pinkies dashing into them. Even from behind, it doesn't do anything.
does it stun lock them at all? Does it stagger them or anything? Or
Nothing.
with a shield, yeah. But it bash them, you'll falter them a bit.
Yeah, that's something that's not actually like mentioned, as far as I know, in the mechanics at all. Like that, you can dash into enemies with a shield, or at least if it is, like I completely missed over it.
I think it's an upgrade actually.
the mastery mentions, I think, specifically that when it's fully
it?
upgraded, that they'll drop health when they're bashed into. Dealing enough damage. Oh no, that's shield launch. But yeah, dashing into heavy demons will cause them to falter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just doesn't breathe.
Them dropping health is kind of like a hidden mechanic. And I think it was, I want to say it was Rytro who was talking about this. I forget who had specifically mentioned this, but like you can default kill like fodder demons or any demon, and they have a set chance for them to drop health. But they don't always do it. Whereas shield bashing any demon to death will force it to always drop 2 health vials. Which is, yeah, it's pretty useful when you've got like a big chunk of fodder demons and you don't have, you don't have the time to glory kill them necessarily, or you need the defensive capabilities of that shield up to tank some damage, and still recoup stack while doing it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Uh,
We're just bullying him.
yeah.
It's a pinky, so it's okay.
Not my fault he doesn't back up a little bit.
Give her some personal space.
And that's such a weird quirk, because if you were to land on a pinky's head like that, not against a wall, he would definitely bite you. So they've got some weird spatial awareness problems sometimes.
Maybe they're like a cat, and if you pinch that scruff on their neck, they're like,
Yeah, they just they freeze up and don't know what to do anymore.
New challenge. You have to bounce off the pinky's head.
yeah, B-hop off the pinky.
Yeah, pinky rodeo. Hell yeah, dude.
Oh my god. I love id Software to make a little like pinky rodeo where they have like a mechanical pinky. Can we get that sound again, Buckyo? Yeah, like I was saying before when I was playing Horde Mode 2, when I was going up against Pinky, I find that when you go up to him and the blood punch, and as the game sort of snaps you up to them, you take damage from either their bites or the impact
Yeah.
before the blood punch happens.
They have like a passive damage field around them when they're in any kind of attack animation.
Actually, not only that though, I remember Arrhythmia. You mentioned this a couple times before. You were talking about how Nightmare, the damage comes before the animation finishes and registers the damage.
That
You were saying that like the imp.
Yeah, and that's something I'm still trying to like kind of work in with like some of the 30 versus 250 FPS stuff that Crucible is weird. But like that might be a frame rate thing at that point too. But there does seem to be, even if you get a melee strike to happen at the appropriate distance and without a lunge and stuff, it does seem like when that damage is applied in the animation is different depending on the difficulty. And that was something that Byte had brought up really early on in the game's life, but that might have also been a frame rate thing. Like he was maybe experiencing the first little bit of that like melee lunge weird zoom stuff that we're now more painfully aware of,
Yeah.
and had maybe just categorized it to being a different thing. That is something that I've been meaning to look into a little bit more in depth. My gut feeling is more that it's the frame rate stuff, because when when he first started playing Eternal, right when it launched and stuff, his GPU would get him anywhere between, I think, like 90 to 130 frames, 144-ish. So that might have been more what he was experiencing, and we just didn't know the extent of the frame rate stuff in the game quite yet. So we'll see how that works out. I'm gonna look into that a little bit more in depth too. That might not be true.
Mm-hmm.
That Mank showed up way fast. Here's personal hope for Tag Part 2. Give us one more Berserk section.
Yes.
Give us literally any more than one Berserk section in any stock campaign.
Actually, you know what? Funny enough, in the Ancient Gods Part 1, when you replay missions and you select the cheat codes, you cannot select Berserk.
Yeah, it only works on, I think, like 5 levels. And yeah, I'm not
they don't include it for the boss levels. That's why. But in Ancient Gods Part 1, you can't use it in any of the levels.
Which is so weird. Like, I am not sure if that's like.
Well, I think it's probably just because they don't have animations for all of the enemies.
But like, so even like, because some of the custom master levels, like Elizabethany's master level, kind of solves this. And there's a Doom Hunter that she places in this fight specifically here in Mario's restaurant. And I thought the Berserk didn't work on the Doom Hunter at all because he has his shield and his sled still up. But the Berserk will kind of act like a blood punch against the sled and knock the Doom Hunter off of it. And then once you wait for his animation to complete, you just do a normal glory kill on the Doom Hunter with Berserk. So, like, there's also sections where, like, in the Art Complex Master level by default, if you hang onto the Berserk long enough, you can use it on the 2 tyrants that are outside. And otherwise, you never see a Berserk glory kill on a tyrant, and they have unique animations. But by default, you'll just do, like, a normal glory kill on them. It just forces a GK. So like I don't think there's that many instances where it really is justified by not having a set animation, because it works that way with the Marauder too. There's, I think it was Delta's master level, and I could be wrong about this, but because I've played through quite a few of them. But this fight ends up with like a bunch of Marauders in it. There's like 8 Marauders. And there is a specific Berserk-based glory kill that happens on Marauders, whether they have their shield up or not. Like, you don't have to fall through them or anything. So like there are segments where like the Berserk could be used more, and it just like never gets touched again beyond this. So I hope we get to see more Berserk. Like even Hell Knights, for example, in the Super Gorness Master level, there's the one Berserk that you get, and there's Hell Knights and Carcasses and stuff in there. So there's GK animation, there's Berserk glory kill animations for those 2 demons too, and the only place you see that is in a Master level. Like, these are things that could be done, but just like aren't, which I find odd.
Actually, you know what? Funny enough, now you mentioned that, the Cacodemons, they have a Berserk glory kill animation where the Slayer just stomps their face in the middle of the air and they explode. And you can only see that if you load up the cheat code and go into any other place that has a Cacodemon.
Yeah,
That
like
just made
there's
me want to out here because you can get that after you clear this arena, and there are Cacodemons like right outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange. There's like a lot of work that's gone into some of the animations for this stuff, and a lot of places where you could use Berserk to better effect. that just get kind of left by the wayside, and it's not allowed to happen, which is kind of a bummer. Because Berserk was one of my absolute favorite things about 2016. The first time you run into it in like Res Ops is sick. And then when you get Savagery and Seek and Destroy fully upgraded, and you hit like, I think it's Necropolis, I believe, where there's a second one. You go through, I think it's like a total of 30 imps, just ripping them in half. And it's some of the most fun I had in that game, is just like putting on those specific runes and just mashing M1 until the entire room is dead.
Oh my god, I remember getting the Berserk for the first time and just seeing how you like rip the imp's face in half.
Yeah,
it sold me.
he like digs his fingers into the thing's forehead and then just splits the skull apart.
Yeah, you see him screaming and he's scared, right? And you just go.
Yeah, it's
Like,
it's
sold
good
me.
stuff. The other one from like, because there's a couple styles of glory kills that I kind of wish had made their way into Eternal 2. There's one for the imp where if you do a death from above and from behind on them, like Doom Guy kind of lands on the imp's shoulders, and as this imp gets flattened to the ground, its head turns and looks up at the Slayer with like absolute terror in its eyes. Like there is a facial animation for it that it's like, holy shit, I can't, and then its head gets crushed by his left foot, and it's so good. Environmental based glory kills too are something that I really miss. Being able to throw something against a wall and then you know, snap its neck against like a piece of the railing and like crush its head against a wall and stuff doesn't happen in this game, and I kind of am a little bummed that it never made its way in.
Yeah,
I
one
think
thing
you might
that
have to get the Berserk here, because otherwise, like, nothing is spawning.
No,
I just soft locked myself.
I remember actually passing through this without using the Berserk power up. It was in the master level.
I guess I just soft locked myself.
Oops.
Don't know how. I just shot a BFG. Maybe because you're not supposed to have a BFG here.
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe like some of the whiplashes didn't quite make it in and the game didn't fully despawn them or something.
Now I know you just killed that demon that was next to the barrel that just shot out a bunch of ammo, but what got me thinking about the Unmaker in a way to like make it a bit better and more like useful is, what if every time you kill a demon with the Unmaker, it drops like ammo?
Yeah, I thought about doing that as well. Like, really, it just needs something.
Yeah, that honestly wouldn't be a bad way to make it more viable, because even though you're sacrificing, you know, however many Argent cells you spend, whether it's the 30 or a full 60 or just portions of it, you're at least gaining some other benefit for using it, some resource back, or...
Yeah, this could be like a resource-based weapon. You could like Ice Bomb and Flame Belch a whole bunch of fodder demons are all grouped up together. Instead of using a Deep Blade, use the Unmaker, and then you get like all stacked up with health, armor, and ammo within like seconds.
I actually really like that idea.
Yeah, that's what's like sitting in my head right now. It's like, why not that?
Yeah, I actually really like that idea, because you're trading off what is an incredibly limited resource that is very finite. Like, our Argent cells are not that common to pick up in many levels. Like, you only have a few opportunities to pick up more BFG ammo.
Yeah.
And that way it maybe allows you to, like, you know, hang on to a couple fuel canisters, or completely replenish your ammo without having to spend 2 chainsaw fuel or run around the map and pick up what is left for, you know, ammo pickups and stuff. Where's the Cacos? Okay, there.
I think it's maybe the map. Yeah, there it is. And
well.
also, when you think about it too, when you chainsaw a fodder demon, just one chainsaw, you don't get all of the ammo back.
Yeah, I think it's a 50%. Like it refills your ammo up to halfway. If you chainsaw twice, then you're fully topped off.
Yeah.
He's
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 stuck.
stuck. Okay.
He's trying his best. He's shy.
Call this ride in the Caco.
If you go too high up, there is a death warp up there. Just fair warning.
Around the team, the meatball. Oh my gosh, Rhythmy, I remember that. You were doing a UN run, and then you meat hook, and you just died.
I
Yeah.
literally got punished for going airborne in a game that wants you to
Oh
use
my
your
God.
mobility.
You
Like,
didn't
it's
even,
so
you didn't go
weird.
that far, and you were so mad. Oh my god, I felt bad.
I was pretty upset because like I literally used the tool that I was supposed to use to try and get my stack back on a glory killable Cacodemon, and the game was just like, nah, you're dead.
Yeah, you didn't even go that high either.
I love how he just like,
Where are you? Where are you? I feel you.
Oh, this game is so quirky.
It's the game that keeps on giving.
I'm stuck to him.
See, like this is the kind of stuff that they don't need to fix, though, right? Like you can leave this sort of thing all around. That's fine. Like Caco hat. Oh, never mind.
Ugh.
Tucker
Yeah,
in
I'd-
chat
I'd be
says
fine
Zai
with
did
that.
this in Trials of the Dark Lord, and that is exactly how Zai ended up completing Horde Mode 2 on Ultra Nightmare, was by popping on the Caco's heads in the Caco phase. Okay, I was like, is there a lack of invisible walls on that portion?
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised that you were able to get
Yeah, me
out the
too.
direction that you did.
Oh, he's coming.
Okay, we're gonna have to ride him back up.
Time to ride the meatball.
Oh my
Oh
god.
shit! I didn't mean to shoot.
Oh, this is a saucy meatball.
The Caco Express going up.
Oh my god.
I can't believe this is actually working.
Lord. Okay, there's the death warp.
There it is.
So it only. All right. Will the Caco be able to fit? Okay, he figured out the pathing to get back up there. Interesting. All right.
It's like not directly above, but kind of to the side, which is weird.
Yeah, I distinctly remember Arrhythmia meat hooking over to that side too. As a Cacodemon was flown by, and you meat hooked, and you straight to the side, and then you sort of hit that that barrier.
Yeah, it's actually right above where that Caco is that ended up killing me. So the broken roof portion that is currently being looked at, there's a death warp that's right up there. Had I gone left instead of behind, I probably would have survived on that run. But it is what it is.
They're just so exploitable in so many ways. If you actually like don't play fast and just like take your time, there's so many ways to mess with the demons.
Ferb is the resident eternal demon bully. I think out of everybody that streams this game, you have the most experience messing with with dumb demons.
Yeah, he steals our lunch money and everything.
It's
And
just so much
that's
fun.
Yeah, that skip in particular is something I'm surprised they haven't patched out yet, because
Yeah.
if you watch like an hour of a speed run on like 100% Ultra Nightmare or like any percent NMG, that ends up happening within like 40 minutes of the run. And that is another one of those tricks that like a lot of people in chat are like, what the hell? How come you can do that? It's like, well, theoretically you shouldn't be able to, but they never patched it out, and at this point
You're
I'm
not supposed to do it.
Yeah, well, like it's one that is honestly even more of a sequence break than like Spear Skip on Exultia ever could be. And it's one that we've known about for months on end. Wait, what, Umbra? Was the question about battle mode and such covered?
Oh, and in questions and comments, we got one from Fold Up Hippo 2 hours ago. Heard you guys talk about battle mode tweaks affecting campaign being an issue. Is a fix feasible?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I had to refresh the page to see the updated suggestion box. Oh wow, there's actually a lot of questions that weren't here on my page earlier when I tried to refresh. What the hell? Okay. That, as far as I'm aware, is something that got separated in update 3. So that was something that, like, the Kako zoom and the Hell Knight zoom also was like a thing for a while, and it was worse than it was currently, even like on lower frame rates and stuff, where they had changed how aggressive the Hell Knights would move, specifically for battle mode balance, but the AI in battle mode and in standard campaign used the same properties. I think around update 3 was when they had finally fully separated those two aspects of like demon AI. So I'm sure they're using similar balancing philosophy for AI demons in battle mode as they are with campaign, but they're no longer tied to the exact same file set. So any tweaks that they make to the demons in battle mode no longer directly affects anything in campaign unless they apply the same tweaks actively in campaign. And I'm gonna go check Slayer's Club real quick and see if I can find that patch, because I remember them specifically addressing that.
Yeah.
What was another question? All right, this is more of like an opinion question. Alter 7 hours ago, so in the last panel, and I'm kind of bummed that he's not here to hear us theorize on this. Who would win in a fight, the Doom 3 Hell Knight or the Doom 2 Hell Knight?
Neither. I'd win.
Yeah, the Doom guy at the end of the day is the one who actually wins, because he's gotten the demons to infight.
Oomph.
In terms of who would win in the infight before the Slayer has to kill someone, I would say the Doom 2 Hell Knight would win, because he still has a ranged projectile attack, whereas the Doom 3 Hell Knight's
yeah, that's
he does not. So
that's back then when like the Hell Knight and the Baron of Hell were like, they kind of look the same.
they were
Except
literally
they're
just a
series
recolor of the same sprite
They
with different
really-
health values.
Oh, good old id Software.
I think it was the August 27th patch? No, man, okay. Somebody out of Spicy, I'm sure, would know. Like, Zan would probably have this memorized for when all this stuff happened, because there is dedicated group of battle mode players who just like focus only on that. Xanderhue would know this for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
But they did end up separating those two AI sets from each other, which is really good because that was fairly problematic to have your multiplayer game mode balanced around the single player stuff too, when they're two completely different games at this point, and we know that now. We absolutely know that now.
Yeah.
He's backhanded me.
I love how he's just trying to swipe at you.
It's the only safe place to be with a zombie is directly behind him.
At 60 FPS.
Oh, there was one more that we missed earlier, and I'm not sure how this extension didn't catch these questions when I'd answered the ones that had been asked after these were put in. Zeusar at one point had asked just how many different major bugs do y'all know, and Bloodshot would have been able to just like absolutely just rant and list off so many different things. In terms of stuff that affects core gameplay, like major gameplay stuff, Blood Punch, No Target, and the weird frame rate dependencies. Because I would chalk up the frame rate dependencies as a bug. That's clearly not an intended design decision.
Yeah.
There's really only those three. The occasional soft lock, the weird teleport stuff. Okay, so he can path into the hole when you're down there, but not when you're across it. And then there's like weird AI state overlap where like specific animations cancel each other out, and certain states for these animations are all tied to faltering system stuff. So it's kind of hard to list a number for that sort of thing when we don't really know what's actually a bug or what is intended gameplay feature or what is something that is caused purely by high frame rate that doesn't happen. It like what is the tested and intended 60 FPS stuff.
I know one big bug that I would consider major would be the Marauder failing to falter on slopes. And I noticed this is also with certain demons too. I know the Carcass, there'll be moments where I latch onto him with a meat hook and I come up real close and just shoot him point blank with the SSG, but he doesn't falter, and as soon as I shoot him, he immediately swings at me. Either he's on a slope or just in general.
Does that, because you have the breadth of experience on multiple platforms, do you find that happens less on console, or is it the same problem?
Oh, it happens on console.
Okay.
It happens on console.
That's kind of something I've been curious about, and
because I remember playing in battle mode on console, and like people would be spawning Carcass, and then I would latch onto him, and as soon as my meat hook separates from him after shooting him, he would just Beyblade me.
And that's so strange, because that's like it's one of those ways that you're supposed to be able to take care of them, and immediately remove them from the board.
Yeah.
And I think that is due partially to the extension of like the falter system and how certain animations cancel out certain falters. Where like you can GK state something, or you can soft falter it with like a remote ed, or you can throw a grenade falter out, and then if you get within a certain range, the demon will just say, "No, I'm not faltered anymore," and immediately snap out of that state. Same with like imps and prowlers. Like prowlers seem to be pretty bad about this too, where they'll be like running and you'll try and meat hook onto them and it should stun them and lock them in place, but they'll continue to run. Imps are kind of bad about that too, where like you can meat hook them while they're on the ground, but they've just been at the start of a jumping animation, and so they'll continue the jump. You're still meat hooked onto them, but they'll break that, and they'll still be able to attack you once you get close enough.
What is happening with the zombie? He's like
He's like teleporting
Naruto
inside
teleporting.
of him. Okay.
It's a new ability. They have like this shadow clone teleport.
Oh my god.
Nothing personal, kid.
Another personnel, kid.
Incredible. Well, I think on that note, for the large majority of... Oh. You're such a bully, Ferb. Oh my god, what is his arm doing? Okay. Have you guys ever killed... Okay, one more thing. Have you guys ever killed a zombie and seen its foot just, like, pull a million 360s in a row while its death animation plays out? Has this ever happened to you?
I've never seen that.
Okay, next time you kill, like, a fodder demon, like a zombie, kind of just watch their feet, because sometimes they will just... You know, okay, so like when a mank arm, for example, does that spin around thing and they get all like weird and twisted up, zombie feet are pretty bad about doing that, and it's the funniest shit to me, and I don't know why.
Oh man. You know, actually, I even remember before too, when it used to be an issue. I don't know if it's still an issue anymore, but I remember when you were like chainsawing or glory killing demons, instead of like their bodies separating, they would just start clipping and get all stretchy.
I actually haven't seen that happen to anybody in a long time, and I'm not sure if that was like an update 1.0 problem or how that ended up getting resolved.
He should have faltered right there when I blood punched him, but he immediately like hit me as soon as I hit him with a blood punch, because he had already started his attack animation, which is, I guess, uninterruptible, which is kind of dumb, because
you would think the resource heavy risk reward management of using your blood punch should override that,
especially because they're gonna start their animation as soon as you get into range. Are they all up there?
What a strange, beautiful mess this game is. It's so much fun to play. And then stuff like this happens where the systems kind of break down and imps will continue to run into you at waist height asking for a hug that they'll never receive.
It's Doom Eternal at a new light.
Yeah. Well, I think on that note, we'll probably go ahead and wrap it up, because this segment's been live for about 3 hours.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ferb and Buckio, for being here and taking the time out of your busy days to come discuss this game that we all love, that we want to see improve in many ways, and in other ways we might want to just leave it alone, because there is some stuff for the comedy value can probably just not get fixed, but there's also some things that from a serious standpoint need to be fixed.
Yeah, most of the stuff I've shown off right now, I'm fine if they leave it in.
Like, you know what? The one thing that I don't want id Software fixing at all is when you blood punch a Kako and he just starts spinning really fast.
Yeah, he turns into a top.
Please make it consistent. I want him to like spin like a Beyblade on the floor after I blood punch him. It is funny as hell.
Just do it every time. Okay, see, Ferb is a professional at bullying demons. How do you manage to do this?
So I guess his ground pound is only if you're touching the ground. But, you know, since everything is made of Velcro, You just push into him, and he don't know what to do.
Okay, he's finally starting to figure out the projectiles are gonna hit you. That's insane. That's actually insane.
There you go, Tony the Phony Pony. He has a good clip of it.
Bully this Cybermink a little. Oh, yeah, bully him a little more while I get this pulled up. We'll demo these last two things real quick.
He's lost me. He doesn't know where I went. This is now Metal Gear Doom.
Keep saying, dude. It's actually a stealth
There's a
game.
Cybermancubus right here. Dummy thick. Oh, it's got you.
How did he hit you through the column? What was he hitting you with?
I think
sound
put
of the D-blade.
something on this. No.
You're playing peekaboo with him.
You got those spins. Oof, keep falling off.
It's so weird. There's this weird split with this game's AI where it can go from being like impressively intelligent and do some really, really clever things and then just derp out like this.
Yeah.
Like you can have a staring match with the Cybermank at melee range and he gets confused, he gets intimidated, and he doesn't know what to do.
Give him a little smack on the booty.
Incredible.
We got him naked.
This is another prime example of this game's beautiful physics. Oh boy. Just
Oh my god.
how many rotations does this thing take before it finally falls off the map? Let's try and count this out real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
One too many.
Yeah, a lot.
Playing football with Kakos.
All right, guys. Well, we'll go ahead and pull the plug again. For real. Thank you for taking the time out of your days to hang out and do this. It's been super cool. We'll hopefully get more people from the battle mode side of things involved. I'm gonna see if I can get like Hugh and Simplu, maybe Zan, Hey Kyle, a bunch of other people to do some battle mode stuff. We'll get Joe in for some controller experience on PC.
Nice.
And we'll see if we can kind of keep this thing going. So keep your eyes peeled on this channel, everybody here and everybody in chat. And as far as I'm aware, we're Rebel Duck is looking to do another actual full-on Doom rave sometime in May, theoretically. So kind of keep your eyes peeled on those channels, and we'll see when that happens. But yeah, everybody take care. There's quite a few people on tonight to raid, so I think we'll go ahead and pass the love on to somebody. And I'm thinking because he was on earlier as a guest and we have the opportunity to do this, we'll go ahead and raid Choco. Chocolate Vanilla, who is doing Ultra Nightmare Enemy Randomizer on base campaign. So, and he's currently on Super Goronest, which is pretty impressive. That man is an absolute legend. So we'll go ahead and toss it on over to him. All right, guys. Have a good night. Take care.
Do have a good one. Thanks.